admitted that I did use her, but I never wanted to hurt her.
How can you expect me to believe that you're sorry when you pick my worst enemy to sell them to? How can you expect me to believe you? You just came to play me, but you won't fool me.
Dad, it's not like that. I didn't have any choice.
When you hear of that favorite jingle every single morning, it signifies the beginning of Good Morning Kenya. Welcome to the program. It's another day. This 31st day of October, the month has come to an absolute end. New week for you to become, to be, and to start all over again. Now, in the program, we'll be discussing matters politics, and already our guests are around, and we'll be talking the issue of governance today, now that the entire cabinet is in place, and now the president is in full grip of government. We'll be looking at that, and now, what now next for Raila Odinga and Azimio as a team? That and so much more later on Eye on Politics. But right now, let's get the show on the road. Ayetza, good morning.
Good morning, Victor, and good morning to our viewer. It is indeed a pleasure to start the morning with you. Thank you for joining us every Monday to Thursday at 6:30 a.m. and we go all the way till 10 a.m. So stick with us because we have so much more for you apart from the political interview. We'll be taking a look at what the newspapers have for us. For instance, the CBC team set to collect public views to start today, among many other stories that we have for you. Thank you for joining once again. My name is Stephanie Ayeta. My social media handle is also at Stephanie Ayeta. Doreen.
Quite an interesting time to be in our country. This is even as farmers in Nyandarua County are now saying that their food products are not fetching the same amount to which they expect. Now asking the government to take these foods because they are going bad and distribute. This is even as talk about 4.5 million Kenyans who are currently facing starvation. And last week we also already established that IMF has equally, sent some restrictive orders, particularly when it comes to the cash transfers and sending of relief foods, asking Kenya as well as the various countries in the Horn of Africa to look for long-term solutions. So really, which way it is and how do we even salvage and curb this issue of food starvation? These are some of those stories that we are also following up for you and continue to follow up how they develop. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okello. Good morning, Marie.
Indeed, a very good morning to you, joining us here in Nairobi and across the country. And just to bring you up to speed with some of the stories we'll be following up for you today is that the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, will be presiding over KEPSA's launch of Youth Empowerment Program later on this morning. And also the new CS for Health, that is Susan Nakumisha Wafula, will be taking over office today. Former CS, that is Mutahi Kagwe, will be handing office to her later on at around 11 o'clock at Afya House. Those are just some of the stories that we'll be following up for you today, but do stay connected here at KBC Channel 1 for more news updates of the day. Coming up just shortly is that in the news, President William Ruto is pushing for more tax collection in order to improve the economy and also bringing new stories on the drought situation in the country coming up shortly. I'm Marie Yambo. Social media handles is at Marie Yambo and at KBC Channel 1 on Twitter. Thank you for joining us. Starting the bulletin On rather a sad note, where 13 people died on Sunday in 7 accidents in Kiambu and Kajiado counties, 6 of them died in 5 accidents that occurred along the Gitaru to Ruaka section of the Western Bypass after a contractor closed one lane of the road. 5 others perished when a tuk-tuk they had boarded was hit by a speeding Toyota Prado. The other 2 died when the vehicle rolled while avoiding to knock an animal along the Namanga Highway. Let's get the details.
It was a black Sunday for families of the bereaved who lost their loved ones. At the Gitaru to Ruaka section along the Western Bypass, 6 people lost their lives. 2 of them were motorists who died when their cars collided. 2 other occupants of the vehicle sustained injuries.
Kama ameweka diversion, anastahili kutumia feeder roads. Atumie feeder roads ndio apunguze hii ajali zinaonekana.
The other 4 people were pedestrians who were each knocked by a car along the stretch as they tried to cross the road.
Hiyo kuta kungekuwa na footbridge ambayo ingewekwa kila pahali. Kama pale ukiangalia kwa mbao kungewekwa footbridge kwa sababu pale watu wengi huwa wanapita.
Residents accuse a Chinese contractor working on a section of the road for closing one lane to enable him put another layer of bitumen, causing confusion for motorists.
Kama sisi viongozi tumejipanga from governor na MP ili tupatane tujue vile tutasaidia watu wetu kwa sababu kuna shida.
At Kamakis along the Eastern Bypass in Ruiru, 5 people lost their lives when the tuk-tuk they had boarded was rammed into by a speeding Toyota Prado.
Prado sasa kwa after kuamshwa, jamaa alikuwa salama, lakini unaona tu amelewa kabisa. Hakuwa yeye ameumia.
Familia imebaki bila breadwinner na the guy was very hard working indeed. Alikuwa tu ameamka asubuhi mapema kutafutia watoto wake. Na yeye kuna mwingine naye alikuwa amelala kukula mali yake akaamua kuja maliza watu hichi.
An 11-year-old child who was also a passenger in the tuk-tuk was the only survivor. Ruiru Sub-County Police Commander Cecilia Kemboi said the Prado also knocked a matatu before rolling over. And in Kajiado, 2 people died on the spot at Mzee, Mombasa along Namanga Road, Kajiado County.
Tukasikia mlio wa gari, tukakuta gari ameshaanguka, watu wameanguka hapo chini. Kulikuwa kuna watu 4, 2 kama mmoja amekufa tu hapa.
Shida ni yani hizi wanyama inawekwa kwa barabara, sasa tukianza kuhepa basi ndio hii balaa kama hii.
Police said the other 2 occupants were in critical condition. Kajiado Central Sub-County Police Commander Daudi Lornyokwe cautioned motorists to be more vigilant to avoid the animals.
A sad state of affairs there. And President William Ruto has cautioned Kenyans against evading tax. Speaking at a Thanksgiving church service in Oranga County, Ruto said stabilizing the economy and reducing the country's debt will not be achieved if Kenyans do not pay taxes. Timothy Kipnusu brings us details of that story.
School in Oranga County hosted the 5th Thanksgiving service since President William Ruto rose to power. Ruto thanking them for voting for him.
You have made our country proud. Through this vote on the 9th of August, the people of Kenya, led by the people of Mount Kenya, broke the yoke of ethnicity from our politics.
Area leaders lauded the president for appointing 2 people from the area into his cabinet.
We are thankful that you give us the 2 CSs, and we know that water problems, Madam Alice, will be sorted.
I also wish to thank you because of the CS for Treasury, Juguna Ndongo, Your Excellency.
Threats by Azimio leader Raila Odinga on Saturday that he will mobilize his supporters to refuse to pay tax were not taken lightly.
I want to ask all Kenyans to also ignore those who think they are big people. asking Kenyans and inciting them not to pay taxes because they want your government to fail. I want to invite Kenyans, let us pay our taxes. Tukumbuke mambo yaliyosemwa na mzee Mwai Kibaki, kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea.
President William Ruto cautioned Kenyans who do not contribute to the growth of the economy by paying taxes. Ruto said the country risks sliding to bankruptcy if a section of Kenyans do not pay taxes.
Na hiyo ndio itatusaidia pia tusikwame kwenye madeni. Mnajua saa hizi tuko na deni kiasi kubwa. Na dawa ya deni ni kulipa ushuru. Hiyo ndio vile tutamaliza mambo ya madeni.
Ruto also said his government will build mega dams in different parts of the country as one of the measures in mitigating the effects of drought.
Mnajua ya kwamba tuko na hali mbaya sana ya kiangazi. Na hii it will not improve, it will get worse with the time because of climate change unless we do certain things.
Ruto also said that through a program to plant 5 billion trees, several jobless youth will be engaged.
Zile kazi ambazo tulikuwa tunatafuta kama ile kazi ya kazi mtaani, sasa itakuwa kazi ya mazingira. Wale vijana wote tulikuwa tunaajiri kwa kazi mtaani, sasa tutawaajiri wapande miti. Tuhakikishe ya kwamba tuko na miti ya kutosha.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua dismissed claim that Kenya Kwanza government was coercing Raila to join the government.
Hatuna haja na hatugojei wewe, we are not looking for you and we have no time. The last time uliingia serikali ya Uhuru Kenyatta aliharibu wako haribu. Stop saying that people can force you to come to this government. Forget about being forced or coerced. We are not interested because sisi tuko na kazi ya kufanya. Na kazi ya kufanya tumepata rais ambaye ako na maono ya kufanya kazi.
Thousands of Muslim faithful converged at the Sir Early Muslim grounds here in Nairobi for special prayers for rains as the effects of drought continue to bite across the country. During the prayers, the faithful sought intervention from Allah for favor. Jamia Mosque Nairobi Deputy Imam, that is Jamaldeen Haj, also called on Kenyans to help those affected by drought.
The ongoing drought threatens to leave 4.2 million citizens food insecure. On Sunday, thousands of Muslim faithful flocked the Sir Ali Muslim ground in Nairobi to hold special prayers for the rains. The Islamic traditional prayers referred to as Salat el-Sakar performed to seek God's intervention during droughts.
Prayer is recommended in Islam, whereby in every aspect of your life, whenever you're facing troubles, there's no way for you to come out of that problem unless God holds your hands.
During the prayer session, the faithful will raise their hands and invoke God for rains and bring to an end the suffering of his people.
Haya mambo Mwenyezi Mungu mara nyingine anataka kusikia sauti ya wahitaji. Tumekusanyika hapa kwa niaba yao na kwa niaba za nafsi zetu kumwomba Mwenyezi Mungu atusame, atuteremshie neema zile ambazo zimekwama.
Sisi tumefunga biashara yetu, tumeacha kazi yetu, tukuje hapa tumuombe na mtulililie na mtunyenyekee kwa Mwenyezi Mungu aliyetuumba atujalie mvua inyeshe.
Speaking after leading the special prayers, Jamia Mosque Nairobi Deputy Imam Jamaldeen Haj called on collective efforts in aid of millions of Kenyans who are suffering.
I'm telling Kenyans in general, let them be their brother's keepers. People are suffering, people lack water, people lack food, children are not able to go to school, their education is affected.
He urged all Kenyans to continue praying to God for rains, saying only the Almighty has the power to redeem Kenyans from the suffering being experienced due to the ongoing droughts.
Benefit a human being and you support them and you feed them and you save them from death, it's like you've saved all humanity. So I specifically urge the Muslims also to stand out and support their brothers regardless of their background, regardless of their tribe, regardless of their religion, because that is the teaching of the Holy Quran.
It is indeed a dire situation in the country. Now, during the vetting of Musalia Mudavadi as the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Suna East Member of Parliament, that is Junet Mohammed, raised a query on the significance of the location of his new office and what it would portend for his stature. Though the Prime Cabinet Secretary was categorical that he had no problem occupying the office as it would allow him to interact with Kenyans easily, little is known about the significance of the Kenya Railways headquarters along the Haile Selassie Avenue, where the government saw it fit to allocate the office to Kenya's seemingly third most powerful man in the executive.
29, the then East African Railways House was the epicenter of all rail operations within East Africa. It also served as the office of a general manager of East African Railways, superbly fit with huge boardrooms and dining area. In fact, the building was built to accommodate visiting royalties of a British monarch.
If the Queen came to Kenya, I've even been told, you will find the boardroom, how it was structured, and next to the boardroom there used to be a dining hall. And next to the dining hall used to be the kitchen. And the Queen used to have her meals in that very building.
Largely seen as a beacon of power, the design and model similar to that of State House, Nairobi.
It's a very important building historically. And you can also say, I do know that the building has now become a national monument of sorts, having been it's a protected heritage site.
In the absence of a governor, regarded as the administrator of the Protectorate of Kenya, the railways headquarters would become the new center of power, as the general manager of East African Railways would become the acting governor.
If you look at it, the design of the railway headquarters is the same that you find at State House, which was then Government House. And it has been there for a long time.
Now the Kenya Railways headquarters will play host to its new occupant, the third most powerful man in the executive arm of government, the Prime Cabinet Secretary. From the office situated in what one would term as the Hustlers' headquarters, the Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi will assist the President and the Deputy President in the coordination and supervision of government ministries and state departments, oversee implementation of national government policies, programs and projects in liaison with the Interior Ministry, chair and coordinate the national government legislative agenda across all ministries, among other responsibilities.
My prayers are that you find me suitable to work with you and to work with other Kenyans.
During his vetting for the position, Suna East MP Junet Mohammed queried about the location of the office.
On the issue of the Kenya Railways, I am happy, very happy about the Kenya Railways as a location for this office. First of all, the people who voted us in are there, alighting every morning to go to work and alighting every evening to go home. To me, I say that that is a constant reminder that whenever I go to that office, I will know that those are hard workers in our country, and therefore we must not let them down. We must work hard and improve on this country.
Since the office is right at the center of a melee witnessed at the railway's bus station, how significant is the allocation of the office to the Prime CS?
That is a place that you'll be able to see how the environment can be preserved by looking at the gardens that are in that building. It's next to the railway station, where you have public going through, and it was also next to the museum of the Kenya Railways.
Definitely symbolic, and becomes a constant reminder for Musalia Mudavadi to serve diligently and work towards improving the lives of ordinary Kenyans.
To some health news now, where parents whose minors are living with cerebral palsy have called on the government to address the high cost of drugs used to deal with the condition. They also identified lack of occupational therapists, stigma and lack of special schools for the minors as some of the major challenges that such families are dealing with.
October 9 is marked worldwide as the Cerebral Palsy Day to urge people to come together to celebrate and support those living with a permanent disability that affects movement. It is caused by abnormal development of the brain or damage to the developing brain that affects a child's ability to control his or her muscles. During a sensitization walk on cerebral palsy held in Naivasha town, stakeholders lamented the stigma associated with the condition has led to many minors secluded from the society.
Umepata huyu mtoto na jamii hata hiyo imekataa kuaccept na huyu mtoto, unapata even a husband anakutenga, jamii yenyewe, my neighbors, so tunapitia a lot of challenges na tunafanya hii work to create awareness mpaka huku nje tufahamishe kuwa watoto tuko nao. Ni watoto tuliwazaa kama wale wengine, tuliwabeba miezi 9 kama wale wengine.
Beatrice Mwangi, who is the chairperson of Naivasha Cerebral Palsy Group, has a minor suffering from the condition. She says the drugs for cerebral palsy are no longer affordable.
Hiyo madawa tukiweza kupunguziwa, juu wengine unajipata ni wewe mama na ni wewe baba. Sasa hata kumove, ukimove utajipata kwa ward. Either mtoto aliconverse akajiumiza ama akaanguka, umemfugia. So kama tunaweza punguziwa mahitaji yao, tunaweza kufurahia sana.
Lucy Wangari, whose 11-year-old son suffers from cerebral palsy, said that acquiring diapers and a special diet was a major challenge for tens of families.
Unatafuta kibarua, unakosa kibarua. Hata mwenye labda tuseme umepata kibarua, huwezi enda na ule mtoto. Diapers unahitaji diapers, mtoto anahitaji diapers. Saa zingine mnamfunga mavitabara, diapers hamna chakula yenyewe. Huyu mtoto anahitaji special diet. Huwezi mpea githeri yenye mama amekuja na githeri amekuletea githeri, nyinyi mtakula nyinyi wengine, lakini mtoto anahitaji special diet.
The nursing officer at Naivasha Sub-County Hospital, Dr. Benjamin Moura, said that 70% of minors attending their occupational therapy department suffered from cerebral palsy. The few trained occupational therapists can hardly cope with this huge number of patients.
In a day, they manage around 200 or more cases, and out of those cases, 60% of those cases, 60 to 70% are cases of cerebral palsy. So you see, most of their clients are children or people with the cerebral palsy.
Joseph Kairu, an occupational therapist in the hospital, admitted the staff shortage was affecting their performance.
Tumekuwa tukiona watoto lakini hatuoni venye inastahili kwa sababu we are few. Kwa sasa niko peke yangu na hawa ni watoto wanafaa. Tuko na large number of cerebral palsy children. Like tuko na around 300, lakini ile namba tuna afford kuona kwa sasa ni kidogo kama 100.
Madaktari tuko na wachache. Huwa tunapata ripoti kutoka kwa daktari ya kuwa hawa watoto wanafaa waonekane mara 3 kama ni mazoezi, lakini unapata anaonekana mara 1 kwa mwezi kwa sababu ya uhaba wa madaktari.
The global push for clean energy has spurred innovations that are environmentally friendly to mitigate the adverse effects of climate change. One of the latest inventions in the Kenyan market is the electric buses for public transport. Investors in the sector say the devices are cheaper to run and maintain than the ones that are run on fuel. Let's get the details.
E-mobility scene in the country has been a buzz as stakeholders not only embrace the demand for environment-friendly vehicles, but also yearn to tap into the economic benefits that come with it. At an inaugural e-mobility exhibition to mark the culmination of the Africa E-Mobility Week held in Nairobi, an array of electric devices such as bicycles, motorcycles, cars, vans and buses were on display. Moses Nderitu from Basigo, who are among pioneers of the electric matatus in Nairobi, tells us the relatively low maintenance costs has seen a growing demand for the buses, with many investors opting to go the electric way.
The bus operator does what we call a pay-as-you-drive subscription, and they pay us 20 shillings plus VAT for every kilometer. And that becomes, and what we do that for that, we charge the bus, we maintain the bus, we train his drivers and everything pertaining to the bus. So there's no technology risk, or if the bus breaks down, that is on Basigo, not on the owner.
The bus, which currently retails at 5.8 million Kenya shillings, features a 110 kilowatt battery with a single full charge able to cover an average of 270 kilometers.
So for this bus, for the period we've been running them, over 50,000 kilometers, the only thing we have done is basically normal service. Even brakes we've not had to change.
The market is responding positively to such innovations.
Guys are tired of high fuel prices, a lot of maintenance breakdowns. There are very few movable parts in the tuk-tuks. We bring in more units on demand, because the market is still getting accustomed to the electric units. We bring them on demand, so we have at least 20 to 50 orders in the pipeline.
And I'm a big fan of going green. It was really such a pleasure to be in an electric vehicle. So I would definitely put my money on it. I would pay a shilling extra for the comfort and the reliability, and also the fact that I'm doing better by the environment.
And to some tragic news in South Korea, where at least 151 people have lost their lives, while 82 others have been injured in a chaotic stampede in South Korea's capital, Seoul. The incident occurred after a huge crowd thronged a narrow street during the Halloween celebrations. Majority of the victims reported were women and young people in their 20s. Authorities are investigating the exact cause of the incident.
South Korea government is searching for answers after Halloween celebrations in the capital Seoul turned into one of the country's worst disasters, with authorities declaring a national mourning period as they investigate the chaotic crash that left over 100 people dead.
As president who is responsible for people's lives and safety, my heart is heavy and I struggle to cope with my grief. The government will designate the period from today until the accident is brought under control as a period of national mourning.
Tens of thousands of costumed partygoers had poured into the popular nightlife neighborhood Itaewon to enjoy South Korea's first Halloween celebration after the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions and bans that included crowd limits and face mask rules. But the festivities quickly turned into chaos, with photos and videos on social media showing huge crowds crammed into a narrow alley. It is reported that the crowd was packed so tightly together that it was even difficult to move around.
There's so many people. What are you going to do with 10 people? Yeah. And I had to turn around and I told the crowd, you can't come this way. People are dying.
According to authorities, the high number of casualties was as a result of many being trampled on. The disaster is among the country's deadliest since the 2014 ferry sinking that killed 304 people.
It's indeed very sad. Now, we shift gears to sports, where former Roma Marathon champion, that is Elias Chelimo and Sheila Chepkoech, won the 2022 edition of the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. Chelimo clocked 2 hours, 10 minutes and 22 seconds to win the men's, while Sheila Chepkoech clocked 2 hours, 27 minutes and 4 seconds to win the women's title.
Elias Chelimo, who finished 8th last year, was in the leading pack from the start before dropping Wilfred Kiro just 5 kilometers to win the men's 42-kilometer race in 2 hours, 10 minutes and 22 seconds.
Nimeshinda na pia ninashukuru Mola kwa sababu kunipea nguvu ya kuweza kumaliza nambari ya kwanza. Nimekaa sana, nimekuwa the whole 2019, 2020 mpaka leo ndio naona mbio sasa ndio nimeanza.
Kiro finished second in 2 hours, 10 minutes and 50 seconds ahead of Felix Kangogo, who settled for the third position at 2 hours, 11 minutes and 8 seconds.
Leo iko mbaya, kosa ni mzuri.
weather nayo ilikuwa mzuri.
Sheila Chepkoech clocked 2 hours, 27 minutes and 4 seconds to win the women's title ahead of Beatrice Cheptoo, who settled for silver in 2 hours, 28 minutes and 42 seconds, with Shailene Toretich claiming bronze after stopping the clock in 2 hours, 29 minutes and 36 seconds.
Nichukua uongozi nikiwa kilomita 20 kilometers na nikaenda kabisa. Ilikuwa ninajitayarisha mzuri from mwezi wa 4.
Daniel Ebenyosimi won the 21-kilometer race in 1 hour and 50 seconds. Isaiah Lasoi and Samuel Naibe finished second and third, respectively.
Running half marathon is I'm preparing for Budapest, 10,000, 5,000, and I know I will make it.
The women's half marathon title went to Evelyn Churchill. Nelly Jepto and Edith Chemjor finished second and third, respectively. Meanwhile, Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba, who graced the event, has called for more concerted efforts in fighting against doping in Kenya, which is threatening to tarnish the country's image internationally.
I wish it known that each of the winner is not getting any hard cash until after their doping test results come out.
Over 20,000 runners took part in this year's event, which started and ended at the Uhuru Gardens here in Nairobi.
Atletico Madrid striker Alvaro Morata risks missing the 2022 FIFA World Cup finals after he was injured when they were beaten 3-2 by Cadiz in the Spanish league. Meanwhile, Real Madrid winger Eden Hazard is hopeful that Belgium will get to a better position in this year's World Cup finals after they were beaten by France in the semis of the 2018 edition. The 2022 FIFA World Cup, remember, will be televised live on KBC Channel 1 and also on our radio stations beginning on the 20th of November to the 18th of December. World Cup.
10 minutes and the club has not yet confirmed how long he will stay out. In other news, the USA soccer team is sweating on the fitness of their goalkeeper, Matt Turner, who has a groin injury. The Arsenal stopper missed Thursday's Europa League clash with PSV Eindhoven, but he is expected to be fit before the global event starts next month. Real Madrid winger Eden Hazard is hopeful that Belgium will get to a better position in this year's World Cup after they were beaten by France in the semis of the 2018 edition. The team boasts of stars such as Manchester City's Kevin De Bruyne, Inter Milan's Romelu Lukaku, and Leicester midfielder Yuri Tielemans. The 2022 FIFA World Cup finals will be televised live on KBC Channel 1 and on KBC radio stations beginning on the 20th of November to the 18th of December 2022.
Remember, it's just about 20 days to the World Cup event, so keep it a date here on KBC Channel 1. While it's on that note that we bring the news to an end this morning, remember we still have much more to be covered for you in our subsequent bulletins. We take a short break now, but we'll be back with more in the headlines.
The legends and familiar chants will grace KBC once again. Don't miss.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Now, we look to see what the different dailies hold for us in matters news, and I will start you off with the People's Daily, where the CBC task force is set to start the public hearing today on what the public has to say about the CBC review, and it is expected to run for 2 weeks. The Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms chairperson, Raphael Munavu, has urged all regional directors of education to inform the county directors of education under the jurisdiction of the scheduled program of activity, noting that all field offices will be facilitated. And they go on to say that the teams will be distributed across the different counties, and so much more. Professor Munavu told the RDE, that is the Regional Director of Education, that they are expected to invite key stakeholders, namely governors, county commissioners, and other national government administration officers, county education board members, area MPs, and members of the county assembly. Others expected to also give their views on the representatives of primary and secondary school, head teachers, all teachers' trade unions, and parents, respectively. And the public views should be on the basic, tertiary, and university education and any other issue relevant to the education sector. It should cover areas such as appropriate structure to implement the CBC and governance of the subsector. And finally, should also cover conceptualization and implementation of key tenets guiding the competency-based approach. Moving on to something different, the former premier urges governors allied to opposition to unite and empower the people. It says, don't ditch quest for reforms. He goes on to say that he observed that some of his ardent supporters were losing hope and reassured them that hope and faith are not lost in the liberation struggle. His words are, hold your horses as we reorganize. Things aren't still that good to be in a rush for options. And on Saturday, he said that it is said that he held strategy talks with the governors from Nyanza and Western regions and some politicians from the Mount Kenya region, probably to re-strategize. And the other leaders that are there to say, this is the Senator Oburu Oginga and also the ODM chairman. They said that what they say, Raila is still our hero, just saying that he's still in a position to continue leading there as the opposition leader. To some other news, the president wants all citizens above 18 years taxed. So the president wonders why there are only 7 million people with carrier PIN, yet there are over 30 million M-Pesa users. And this is to say that it is to suggest that the government would probably use digital strategy to net more taxpayers. And despite the new push to get more people to be registered for taxation, the president said that he has held talks with the taxman on how to approach the issue, saying no one will be harassed at it as it has been done before. And the aim is to ramp up revenue collection in its states to meet a 6 trillion collection target by 2027. And 2 days earlier, before this, the church service where the president spoke, there was an event to recognize the top taxpayers and the people that the corporates that won this are Safaricom and KBL, who are crowned the top 2022 taxpayers, with Safaricom retaining its title as the country's best taxpayers among the large corporates for a 14th year in a row. For the 14th year in a row, the telco emerged a winner among 17 companies that were rewarded for commendable tax paying practice. And then the second best taxpayer was the Kenya Breweries Limited, followed by the Kenya Commercial Bank, among other corporates. And according to figures from the tax month, Safaricom remitted 124 billion Kenyan shillings in duties, taxes, and licenses fees in the year that led to March 31st, 2022, a growth from 98 billion in duties and taxes. That is a story on my And finally, on matters health, call for early breast cancer testing as center unveiled. The center has been unveiled at the Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital, giving an opportunity for treatment. The center will provide a one-stop shop for screening, diagnosis and treatment of the disease. This comes after a fight against breast cancer, and this is a major boost to that. And oncologists say that there's a concern with late diagnosis and stigma continue to hamper against gains made in the fight against the disease that is most commonly diagnosed in Kenya. So that is at least an improvement there. So more stories here, but first let us hear what the other days have for us.
I'll pick it up with a copy of the Daily Nation. Acid test for Raila. This is the splash of the Daily Nation this Monday morning. This is even as you're looking at the 3 months coming to an end. That is next week, the November 9th. I'm talking about the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition agreement, which over time has spurred quite a conversation. Then the biggest question is the minute that this agreement expires, the 3-month term expires, what next for this political party? One of the key issues that over time that the party has largely dealt with is, first of all, the issue of division of funds. You can remember in 2013 with the Accord, 2017 NASA, right now in 2022. How will they divide these funds? Also knowing fully well that there are parties that already left Azimio la Umoja politically, but within the bounds, they were still bound in the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya. I'm talking about UDM, MDG, as well as some of those leaders who defected to Kenya Kwanza. So this is also coming at the backdrop of the fact that there's still no clear plan for the opposition party, I should say, going by what we have on this particular article. So next week we wait to see the moment that those 3 months lapse and they're no longer legally bound to the agreement. What next for Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party still remains a matter of wait and see. Away from that, looking at some of those details that have emerged from the shooting last week, and this is of the slain Pakistani journalist. I'm talking about Arshad Sharif. What we have here is that the deceased died due to firearms injuries that caused damage to the brain and the right lung. This is what has been revealed there from the post-mortem. Also, new details emerging from this particular probe is that Mr. Sharif had said, this is before his death, of course, said that he had received death threats for exposing corruption. Remember that he was an investigative journalist and he was also working on an investigative piece. His biggest forte being on matters of corruption as well as bad governance. But also they're continuing to probe into this matter. And again, key figures also emerging is that it took 13 minutes. This is the duration of time that it took for him to lose his life or die after the shooting that happened just 1.5 weeks ago. And also, Ruto allies hang onto hope of clinching top state jobs. We have seen the loyalists being awarded with cabinet secretaries positions, those that are featured the list of principal secretaries, that is the PSs, whereby actually the list has come down to 250. You can remember that over 9,000 persons applied. That was shortlisted to 585, whereby interviews have been ongoing. And now we are talking about 250, whereby this number is supposed to come down to 50, which is the available slots for principal secretaries. But again, what we have here is some of the names of the persons who were key allies, or they featured largely during the campaigns, but you're not seeing them anywhere. I'm talking about the likes of Hassan Omar, Isaac Ruto, Cleophas Malala, Johnson Muthama. And again, what we're also gathering is that behind the scenes, these names are now fighting or jostling for some of those state positions which haven't really gone to anyone else. But again, also, the biggest question is that which positions are this for these key Ruto allies who are the forefront during the campaigns, seeing that we've already seen some of those biggest positions being awarded to, some of those key allies or loyalists there. But again, also this remains to be a matter of wait and see, much as the executive has already been constituted. But you're also waiting for those positions of CAS. Much as the courts already pronounced themselves on that, but the president has been at the forefront trying to champion and fight for those positions. So at this some of those positions that they will get still again remains a matter of wait and see. And again, also, polls to replace Murkomen, Wahome, and Duale to be held on January 5th. This is what the Electoral Commission has now said, already given the dates and timelines for campaigns for this by-elections to replace some of these individuals who've already joined the executive in position of cabinet secretary. Of course, this is the Elgeyo Marakwet senator, senatorial position, as well as Kandara member of parliament position, and also Garissa MP position. And going by what the electoral body has already given is that we are having December 5th to January 2nd, that is of 2023. That is the time where campaigns will be happening for these mini polls, and between this December 5th and 6th, this will be the dates or the time for the party primaries, and this is ahead of the January 5th 2023 mini elections or by-elections to replace those that have already joined the cabinet. And again, before I head over to Marie, looking at the back page of the Daily Nation, we are having Matters Education here, and this is again in respect to the final examinations for grade 6, class 8, and Form 4s, of course, looking at the KCP as well as KCSC there. And just going by what we have here, this is actually the highest number of teachers in our history who will be deployed to oversee these exams. We are talking about 250,000 teachers to supervise, and this is cut across in terms of center managers, supervisors, invigilators, and examiners, the highest number in its in our history. And again, looking also at these exams for grade 6 learners, this will run from November 25th all the way to November 28th, and KCSC running from December 2nd all the way to December 23. This is just some of those timelines that the ministry has given in respect to this final year exams. Of course, grade 6, class 8, and Form 4. That is the KCSC. Victor.
All right. On the front page of the Star newspaper, Uhuru men have been humbled in defeat, Ruto. Uhuru men have been humbled in defeat. That is according to President William Ruto. President says that they are now in deep regret. He says they are living in shame, humiliation for trying to thwart people's will. Details shortly. EACC MPs hiring their spouses, children and staff as staff members. That is according to the EACC. Mudavadi to be at the Treasury building as offices being repaired. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi will temporarily be housed at the National Treasury as he waits for the refurbishment of his Kenya Railways headquarters office to be completed. And finally, on the front page, Wanga Kidero fight over Raila name in petition. Homa Bay Governor, that is Gladys Wanga, has asked the court to expunge the name of Raila Odinga from affidavits sworn by rival Evans Kidero in a petition challenging her election in August. Kidero ran against Wanga but lost. Okay, DCI officers tell court that their case is politically instigated. They say that they should be charged straight away if IAU has facts that they were involved. But that is according to the investigators who are seeking to hold Peter Muthe, Gathiku, Francis Ndonye, John Mwangi, Joseph Kamau, Joseph Mwenda, David Chepcheng, and Stephen Luceno, Paul Chogu, and Simon Muhungu for 30 days pending investigations. But the officers have opposed the application, saying that the intention is to frustrate and intimidate them in a politically instigated case. Don't eat cash for the hungry, ACK Bishop to state officials. This is according to the Anglican Church of Kenya, Mombasa Diocese Bishop Alphonse Baya Mwaro, who has issued the warning after Sunday service at the Mombasa Memorial Cathedral. This comes at a point where 4 failed rain seasons have left 4.4 million people in need of food aid. The country needs about 15 billion shillings to mitigate the drought situation as it steps up effort to distribute food and water. Very quickly, Uhuru men have been humbled in defeat, according to President Ruto. Ruto said on Sunday that the former officials were arrogant and very disrespectful, but now they deeply regret their moves after he swam against the tide and was elected head of state. The president spoke at his as his deputy Rigathi Gachagua told off Azimio leader Raila Odinga for what he called an attempt to get a handshake with the Ruto administration. All regions part of my growth plan, that's according to President. He said that the regions that did not vote for him will be treated fairly and receive the benefits that they need. And finally, MPs hiring spouses and children as staff in their offices according to EACC. They are also hiring spouses, children and close family members as their staffers in the constituency and county offices contrary to the law. In a stern letter to the Parliamentary Service Commission, EACC fired a warning shot at the legislators for their unlawful and unethical conduct. That is what is on the Star. And finally, this is a story from the Ministry of ICT. Prepare for paperless society through tech, says Eliud Owalo, who is now the minister, who is the CS for Information, Communication and Digital Economy, who has asked Kenyans to get ready for a paperless society. He was speaking while he was taking handover notes from his predecessor, Joe Mucheru. Mariam.
Thank you, Victor. I have the Standard newspaper with me, and on the front page, unions oppose Ruto's plan to hit salaried staff. That is taxation, matters of taxation. Remember, the president has been pushing for more taxation, especially for those who are salaried, and the aim here is to increase the revenue to deal with the runaway national debt, which is almost approaching its limit of 10 trillion shillings. So unions are opposing that move, and mainly the reasons they're actually putting across is that the cost of living is too high, and so increasing the tax for Kenyans will actually be detrimental. And probably just to give you a glimpse of what it would look like if at all the president's plan will be effected, and that is for those earning a gross salary of 50,000 shillings. Currently, being deducted 8,683 shillings, but if effected, they'll be paying 10,503. Those earning 100,000 shillings will be are currently paying 24,892. But if the plans are effected to increase the taxes, then it will they'll be paying about 28,028. 150,000, 39,000 right now, and 100 shillings, but it will increase to 45,978. That is for both the NSSF and NHIF. Now, moving to another story here in the Standard, that's to do with the CBC. CBC review team kicks off tours to engage the public. So the task force, the 49-member task force that was inaugurated by the president, will be kicking off the public engagement today with different stakeholders also giving their views. Among the CAPSHA, Kenya Private University Workers Union, will also be presenting their views to the task force today. KUSNET, that is the Special Needs Education Teachers, and the KUPET, Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, will also be presenting their views today. With the CBC, the main issue has been the implementation, and so among the issues that the team will need to actually give recommendations to the president after they've collected and reviewed is how CBC should be examined, among other structures. So those are some of the stories which are making headlines here in the Standard. Something very interesting, being the Breast Cancer Month. Did you know that breastfeeding reduces risk of breast and ovarian cancer, scientists say? So that is a very interesting story. In the Standard, it would grab the paper and get to read and get more information about that story. So I think I want to take a break right now, or from my side, that is. My time is up. So thank you so very much for your company. I'll be back with you on Thursday this week, but my colleagues continue with the program. I'd hand it over to Victor. We take a break right now.
KBC Channel 1, we put people at the heart of events with our captivating weekly news features. Every day, we are breaking new grounds with informative, entertaining, and inspiring human interest stories. On Mondays, 9 p.m., we have The Cabinets. Tuesday, 9 p.m., we get inside the barracks for military tales. We delve in the world of cinemas and theater each Wednesday night. For the young and industrious, make a date with us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Fridays are dedicated for my culture. On Saturdays, we go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
Your mother is not an ordinary woman. She has many important things to deal with. She can't stay with you every day.
I guess it's fate that all of this has ended up in your hands. If it weren't for you, who knows how long it would have taken to find Mars?
Master?
Earlier, Zeno had told me that I'd find you here. I'm supposed to do it with you. But now I need to transfer my energy to my master, which means I don't think I'll be able to be your queen.
Sijaonja huyu samaki, anakaa kuonjwa.
Wewe tunawajua, bana utalipa. Usinilete hiyo mchezo yako tu.
Ni nani wewe mnaongea na yeye?
Ehe. Unaishi Mbiotika lakini bado yuko Mbiotika. Kwa hivyo Mbiotika nilikuwa dambata hii chombotomia Mbiotika.
Okay, ndio sijaelewa exactly ni nini unataka nieleze polepole. Unauliza nini? Ona, I'm speaking English, you are speaking KBC. No wonder unapata hii.
Blood donation has been associated with different slogans over the years. Quotes like save a life, donate blood. Save a life, give blood. And donating blood gives us a chance to save a life. This year during the World Blood Donor Day, the slogan was donating blood is an act of solidarity. Join the effort and save lives. All these aim at drawing people's attention to the role that voluntary blood donations play in saving lives and enhancing solidarity within communities. And just like a familiar chorus song, Kenyans do understand the need of donating blood.
I came here today because I feel someone out there needs my blood, and I have enough to share. I feel it's okay to give.
I feel there's a need to make an impact in other people's life, and one of the ways of making an impact in other people's life is by donating blood. That means the blood you donate can go and save a life somewhere.
I personally love donating blood because I believe it's helping someone else, and doing good by others means doing good by God.
However, are they aware of the health benefits they get when donating blood?
I usually just come to give. I don't think of myself while doing it.
I guess the satisfaction that comes with the fact, with the knowing that my blood can help somebody somewhere.
Probably if there are, you can tell me.
Majority of Kenyans do not understand the benefits they themselves get when they donate blood. Most of them know that it's all about helping another person. But this is not just about helping another person. This is also about you.
Tokens of refreshments and reimbursement are not the only benefits one gets for donating blood. There are health benefits too for the donor, as Dr. Esther Akinyi explains.
Blood donation can also be therapeutic, meaning that it can be treatment for some conditions. There are some people who have conditions such as, it's known as hemochromatosis, where they have excess iron in the body. When you donate, then the excess iron is able to be offloaded, and now you have normal iron stores.
Even though you may seem healthy, going about your daily routine with ease, there may be diseases developing in you without your knowledge. Such diseases can be detected through free health screening that a blood donor gets.
Before donation, there's always some questions that people are asked. There are some vital signs that are taken. There is weight that is taken. Your blood pressure is taken together with your pulse. And also your HB levels can also be taken. When that is done to you, then you are able even to get to know the state of your health. You're able to get to know even some things that you had not discovered about yourself, in terms of maybe probably you have a blood pressure that is now developing, and that way you can be able to seek medical attention early.
Donation of blood before surgery for one's use can be beneficial to a donor when they are facing a life-threatening situation.
There is something known as autologous blood donation, and this is where the person themselves donate their own blood a few weeks before probably a scheduled surgery, so that during that surgery, when they require that blood or any other situation where they require that blood, then it can be added to them. So you see, this becomes a benefit to that person. Yes, they donated it earlier on, but when they're in that situation that is life-threatening, that they require blood, they can be able to get their own blood. So it reduces the risk of any blood-borne infections that can be got from any other donated blood.
So now you know donating blood not only helps the recipient by saving their lives, but also has several health benefits for the donor. Pauline Nasimiu for Channel 1 News, Nairobi. Dodosa Primary School in Ganze, Kilifi County.
Which game does beauty love? Which game does beauty love?
Today, the school is doubling up as a health facility. The county is facing hunger headwinds worsened by the ongoing drought, with agriculture being the worst hit. Residents have to walk for over 8 kilometers to Jila, the nearest health dispensary for treatment.
And usually come here twice a month for the supplementary feeding program for the malnourished children.
They say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Here, even water is a scarce commodity.
Pia ni mbali, maybe watu watoke huko waje wases mahali wako ambao hawezi pata ile pesa ya kila siku wanunue chakula.
We meet parents who who have brought their children for assessment of malnutrition.
Kama huyu ashinde hatapata uji ni hilo titi, alafu wewe mzazi tayari hukula kitu, halitatoka maziwa. Anashinda na njaa mpaka hata anaweza kulala. Kaenda kwa jirani ndo kamwambia kama yuko nacho, kamwambia nisaidie.
With Dodosa area of Kilifi currently having the highest number of malnourished children, according to the IPC Food Security and Nutrition report of October 2022, I am keen to know the root cause of the problem from a mother of 3, Alice Shida.
Hali ya maisha ni ngumu, manake hata kuna shida ya maji, chakula, watu walikata makaa, miti ikamalizika. Mimi niliona heri niolewe mapema kwa sababu niliona hali ya kimaisha ni ngumu. Nikaona heri ni ache yale masomo ya kule mbele. Janaenda kakule kwenye vinywaji huu, sijui ni mgoka huu. Anatoka kabisa na pesa, anasema naenda nunua chakula, alafu awe ni basi ameenda kabisa. Nasubiri paka uchoke, hata ukimuuliza anasema wewe acha kunipigia makelele, utajua wenyewe na hao watoto wako. Na ni watoto wenu nyote.
Shida says the situation has been so dire, with water points being 15 to 20 kilometers away and most of them having dried.
Kama bawa hivi, alafu yakikauka ndo watu huwa wanachimba yale, tunachimba vile visima na kuchukua hayo maji, na hayawezi nini, manake yana chumvi nyingi.
I noticed these women who have just brought in their young ones. The question is, where are the fathers? But there's this man accompanying his wife.
Baba wa watoto watano, pata huu kame, mifugo yote ikaenda yote kabisa na ikakufa. Mpaka sasa tumebaki ni kama hatuna kitu. Tumebaki ni kuhangaika tu. Upate makaa, upate chakula. Mpaka sasa watoto kusoma ni shida. Nake ataenda shule afukuzwe kwa sababu ya fees. Sai kwa kweli nimepata elimu kwamba ni heri uzae kimpango, sio jizalie tu.
But how do they cope with such challenges?
Under these, we are looking at the 3 sectors currently. But remember, this project, this is the phase 2 of this project. We had phase 1, which is ending in October, but phase 2 has kicked. But under phase 2, we are majorly looking at the response activities geared toward at least alleviating suffering to the community. So under these, we are looking at nutrition sector and health sector. We are looking at wash sector, and then we are looking at the food aid sector.
As the sun goes down, marking the end of the day, we can only hope that the diary of a Dodosa woman will exalt someday after President William Ruto reiterated his commitment to boosting agriculture during this year's Mashujaa Day. With the drought situation continuing to worsen in this vast county of Kilifi, Mihirini residents can only hope that the situation will improve sooner than later for them to get water for irrigation and for human consumption.
All right, welcome back. Now, it's time for us to get into the political segment of this show, being the 31st day of October 2022. We should be expecting so much now that the cabinet is now fully constituted as per the constitution and as per the requirements of the law. So today, I would like us to focus more on that and what you should expect in the Ruto administration moving forward. In the studio, I have got Edgar Kosgei, who is a political analyst, joining me on the show. I have got Edgar Awino, who is a communications expert and budding lawyer, and the only lady on set today, Atieno Gola, who is an advocate of the High Court. Gentlemen and lady, karibuni sana.
Asante sana.
Starting with you, Edgar.
Yes,
they say, Yamune?
Edgar Kuzge, yes, we sing.
All right.
Yes.
Gilbert would tell you Ade Maber or yes, Auntie Maber.
True.
Okay. Karibuni sana. So it was a busy weekend, so to speak, and the past 1 week and even the 2 weeks, it's been so hard politically speaking. And now let's take a look. Let's just go back and see what really happened. But before then, there's an interesting bit here on the front page of the Star newspaper. And the Star newspaper says that Uhuru men have been humbled in defeat. That's according to President William Ruto. Uhuru men have been humbled in defeat. Ruto, they say that they're now living in shame, humiliation for trying to thwart people's will. And the story continues to say that the president says they are now in deep regret. Let me just start by asking you this, Gilbert. I don't know what's your take on this. Now that we have a complete cabinet,
yes,
it was deemed to happen. A transition cabinet, the government was due to happen, and now we have a new government altogether.
Yes.
So why would these people live in regret and in shame, according to the president?
You remember, in the last government, he was the deputy president. He was an insider who found himself in the periphery. And of course, the happenings then were not in good books with him. And he went further, if you notice. He even used terms like foolish people we hired.
Yes.
Who made it really hard for us to work. And for that matter, I should apologize. So the president is just hitting back at people who he feels offended him at the time that he ought to have been given the due respect as the deputy president. So we can say the chicken has come home to roost. Yes.
Because when you look at, let me just quote what the president said. I ask for your forgiveness because that government was put together by retired President Uhuru Kenyatta and me. We had very arrogant, proud, and stupid people in it, and that is why they even tear-gassed a church. Someone would argue that the president is hitting out at those people who were in the last regime, but don't you think it's now time to move on?
Yes, I think it's time to move on, and this is the problem that certainly they will find themselves in. It looks like the president was not prepared for the presidency because he's taking too much time using the side mirror as opposed to looking forward. And oftentimes, yesterday I watched as they had the political, church event in Muranga.
Yes.
And yes, they had gone for a Thanksgiving occasion in that church. But certainly it was a political event. It had all the political players, both former and current, and aspiring, sitting, and they were given due recognition. And you had Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua referring to Raila as that old man. Those are terminologies that are endearing because these are also citizens. So the president and his team are still not done with those guys, the ones who made our lives difficult, the ones who perhaps thought they were going to lead this country. So we are the guys on power. Give us a moment just to take time and look back at you and say, gentlemen, you thought you were going to have it, now we have it. Wait and see what we are going to do. That essentially is the stage at which they are at. Potentially, therefore, that gives the opposition end, because it looked like Kenya doesn't have an opposition front.
Yes.
But what this does now is that he's creating, a basket of dissenting voices. Sooner, you'll find Ruto government, I think, will have one of the, the most hard-hitting opposition players, because Raila Odinga is a very bad leader, as perhaps people have opined. But given an opportunity to thrive in an opposition environment, you will see a different person. And just last weekend, he said, I'm not done yet. So perhaps people who thought that Raila is done and dusted, perhaps we are yet to see certainly he will resuscitate to the opposition person we have always known.
Okay.
So, yes.
Koske, let me get your voice on this.
Yes.
Based on what we have on the Star newspaper, Uhuru men have been humbled and in defeat, and they're now living in regret and in shame. And according to the president, some of them were arrogant, proud, and stupid.
Now, some of the words that you've mentioned are unfortunate, and they are so big.
Yeah.
Arrogant and stupid. Those are very big words.
Of course, I've just quoted what's also what he said.
Those are very big words.
Exactly.
And they are coming from our leaders to the people who served us in the previous regime. Now, but you understand where these people came from. I understand the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, so much. When you parade someone, you march him from his house at night in the view of the wife and the children. You arrest him in an ignominious manner, in a manner that is shameful.
Yeah.
Such pains go deeply into your heart. That's why these people do not heal really easily. The Deputy President then was humiliated publicly and called that person who has power and has no power. The president underwent very tough times during the 5 years during the handshake moment. And this one, he's just been in power for a month or two.
2 months right now.
Yes. And I totally understand what he is trying to say and what he's trying to do. It is not that he is just talking. This is a person who understands that the country needs progress and the country needs to move on. He's been launching houses here and there. He's been starting projects 1, 2, 3 here and there. Yet he still wants to remind us that this is where we've come from and this is where we're going. Sometimes bitter words like those ones can be used, which is quite unfortunate. But as Kenyans, we understand. Those people who are on the other political divide think that people should move on. But they should understand that pain has a process of going away. It goes away slowly. Even a wound doesn't just go away like that.
Yes.
It leaves a mark somewhere and it goes slowly. So as these people heal,
who is under some serious
let them heal slowly.
Sorry, who are humiliated, or people who are
I'm tempted to interject.
Well, because both parties are hurting. If you ask me.
Wait. Now, this infliction of pain went on for 5 years, Victor. 5 good years.
Were you part of the pain?
I was.
Okay.
Yes, I was.
All right.
5 good years. Now that these people have victory, allow them to vent and allow them to talk. Sometimes those are unfortunate words. We are sorry. Very unfortunate. But allow them to heal. Rigathi sometimes talks with passion and says, huyo jamawa, or those other words.
Yes.
Kenyans, and let them heal slowly. There are people who are sacked from office without notice. I know my friends who went home without a penny. They had to relocate from Nairobi to Ocha. Their kids had to be moved from Nairobi home using just flimsy grounds. And the case is started at our courts. And you find yourself at home with your children for 4 years, Victor.
My director is asking, were you at the drama festival? Did you narrate any narrative for us?
Tell them to come here. We debate.
All right. Let me come to Atieno. What's such as this? And based on what is also saying that some people went through some hard moments for 5 good years. Now there is a new government altogether. People would suppose that the president should now act as a unifying factor. Much as other people are also hurting, they hurt, yes. But when it comes to this particular point that the president said that they're now living in shame, they're humiliated and all that, what do you think the president is trying to push out there?
Okay, this is just a typical depiction of that saying that he who laughs last laughs best. You're saying that, of course, as my colleagues have clearly said, that the president and some of his allies underwent humiliation during the last 5 years, and maybe also in other capacities.
Yes.
But I think it's time for the president to try and unite the country, because also the number of voters who also didn't put him in are also to be considered as we try to move forward. And of course, he should now focus on delivering in the areas that he said he's going to make the various changes. So it's quite unfortunate, but I think now moving forward, everyone should try to be at least balanced, because people are really watching and everyone is trying to seek hope, and therefore the president should be a unifying factor.
All right. Gilbert, is the president balancing governance and politics at the same time?
I think he's yet to get there, and I appreciate the pain, the shoe that Kosgei here is wearing on what really happened and the justification to the subsequent behavior. But I want to remind him that in this country there are people who are detained for about a decade. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela was detained for 27 years.
Yes.
He never came out of prison to tell you that, you know, I was treated so badly that now it's time for me to also hit back at those people.
And remember when he came back?
Yes.
His relationship with the clerk.
Actually, the clerk became his deputy. He led reconciliation. So I think it is time for the deputy and his president to be the true statesmen that they ought to have been. I mean, life is essentially like that. They are the ones who reminded us during political season that in politics, there is no permanent enemy, there is no permanent friend.
Yes.
And the happenings that perhaps they experience, I just wonder how entitled they were to certain treatments that basically have to be referenced to even when things have moved on. We went for election and the Constitution mandates everyone to vote for the person they prefer. They emerge the winner. You realize that during just in the run-up to the August elections, the president was essentially using three components in his messaging. He would use logic, where he would give us numbers. He would persuade us emotionally, where he would tell us, you know, these people have treated us so badly. And he also invested in the people who would give him credibility. They always made reference to doctor. You know, his naming was quite consistent. That kind of categorization had its place in making sure that he wins. Now, he has won, but he's still campaigning. He's still employing the same messaging, like he has, you know, people to vote for him. So I think, and particularly the context within which perhaps this happened, Kosgei, they were in a church function. It was a Thanksgiving. You have come to church essentially to say thank you. And you know, we go to church in supplication. There's how we carry. The decorum that characterizes a church function was missing. However, I have no doubt that William Ruto is a mover and shaker, and I think perhaps, you know, you have to do a bit of reflection, and perhaps it will be sooner that you will see a different Ruto, you know, moving forward to what he ought to.
I'm quite excited to see that kind of different Ruto we are likely to see. But Edgar, I mean, when you look at the function, it's a Thanksgiving church ceremony, of which the way it is, it's going to go all the way for the next 5 years. Moi style. Moi used to attend, he was member of AIC.
Yes.
Exactly. Every Sunday, President Moi was in church, and KBC did that job for religious.
And you began it. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's our job anyway. So now, when you look at the situation, there is. But I'm quite interested in understanding why Raila's name has to appear in every Sunday church service. Raila is not in government. He's out. For the last 10 or so days or a week or two, he's been away. But each and every Sunday, his name appears. Azimio name appears. Actually, it's not even Azimio. Wale watu wa kuzimia.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
Are we still in campaign mode? I mean, life is going on. We're being told now, let's pay taxes, meaning it's over.
Yes.
Take it away.
Victor, we are just 1 month after elections.
2 months.
And 2 months, yes. And I just said, let people heal the way they want to heal. You've given an example of Nelson Mandela, who just healed just like, and embraced all his opponents. People heal differently, and people move on differently. The platform which people use to send their messages, as we speak now, is quite unfortunate. It is in church, but as we said, we use different platforms to communicate differently. That's why I was saying, let us heal. We will eventually heal. We will finally heal. But I am glad he has spoken. He said that William Ruto is someone who works really hard, and very soon we are yet to see that this person is unmatched. The opposition will have no role. I can tell you for a fact.
The opposition will have no role?
Yes.
How?
You know why? Because what will be done will be above board. This is someone who understands what sustainable development goals are. This is someone who understands what social housing is. When he tells you that someone in Kibra is going to pay 2,400 shillings for rent, and that house you're going to own, who has come up with that? And he is targeting 2 million houses in this year. At least that is what I overheard him talking about. So there are plans to salvage the local Mwananchi from poverty and from whatever is happening. And he will do everything in his power until we will have nothing to fight against. Right now they are fighting about, they were talking about GMOs coming into the country. I don't want to open that topic. But when we come to a table and when we have an understanding together, we will realize that there is food that we have to put on the table for our people in the country. Otherwise, the name of the former premier appearing in each and every platform means that he was the main opponent, and he was part of the government that was toppled, that went. So he was part and parcel of this struggle. He was their fiercest opponent. In fact, half of the country was behind him. And now that we have a new president who should bring us together, we do not have those two factions any other. We do not have those two factions.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is, as we heal, let us allow them to talk about whatever it is they went through in the hands of the former premier, because he was at the center of the government.
All right. Allow us to take a break. And we come back. I love the way you're putting it. But then I'm still interested in understanding why Raila's name has to appear, because he was the main opponent, rightly put.
Yes.
But at this particular point, is it a way to make him or to break him? Someone would say that Raila thrives very well in opposition, so calling his name is like to provoke him to come back to his real life. It's like taking fish into water. Amalu, please, no pun intended. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more.
Hii peni ya Ruto unaisikia sana.
Ni uchungu.
The world's biggest sporting event is here with us. The FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar. KBC Television will air live 28 selected matches, while radio will beam live all the 64 matches. We would like to bring to the attention of the public that KBC is the only station that has exclusive 2022 FIFA World Cup free-to-air FTA broadcast rights for both TV and radio in the Kenya territory, and no other media outlet. Therefore, catch all the FIFA World Cup action live and exclusive on KBC TV and radio. KBC is indeed your true sports partner.
Gonna be sticking around every tomorrow.
Your mother is not an ordinary woman. She has many important things to deal with. She can't stay with you every day.
I guess it's fate that all of this has ended up in your hands. If it weren't for you, who knows how long it would have taken to find Mars. Master? Earlier, Zeno had told me that I'd find you here. I'm supposed to do it with you. But now I need to transfer my energy to my master, which means I don't think I'll be able to be your queen.
This week on Tech, we tell you how legal meets tech.
Our application is called Legal Tech Services. It's a web-based application, and what it does is allow for the exchange of legal services.
In tech news, e-insurance startup bags 1.2 billion in Series A drive, and internationally, Elon Musk presents Optimus. This is a humanoid robot. More details in our tech news roundup.
Join me, Stephanie Ayete and Grace Gidaiga, as we serve you with only the best tech updates the world over.
Take on Tech every Monday at 10:30 p.m. on KBC Channel 1. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. All right, so let's continue with the discussion. I don't know which part of the country you're watching us from. Please talk to us on our social media handles. They will tell you their respective media handles, social media handles, so that you can also talk to them directly there. You can also reach them. They are professionals, so you can seek their advice or services anytime you want. Okay, so let me come back to you, Wakili. When you hear, let's talk about now the president and his cabinet, and now the real situation on the ground. When you hear Rigathi Gachagua talking like that, it's like roles have flipped. The way the president is now speaking right now, he is completely taken on a different court, somehow dropped the other one, which was so combative and trying to be presidential in a way. Even though he's a politician, that political skin is not fully shed off. We can still get some traces of politics in him. But you can see the DP now taking the lead role of, quote unquote, an attack soldier. Do the job. Take it away.
One thing I can say that I learned from this political season, everything is carried out intentionally. So any act or omission is not by mistake by politicians, especially if you look at how our president carried out his campaign. You'll learn that he carries out his plans with military precision. So the role that Rigathi Gachagua is actually taking right now is intentional and for a reason. And I would not like to speculate because I would not like to be misquoted for saying anything regarding that. But what I can say is that the president understands his posture that he should take. And now, of course, he is trying to, let me say, carry out his agenda using different ways. Okay? And of course, in the coming days, we will come to understand why Rigathi is actually speaking the way he's speaking. But I can say that the president is now shaping up and actually now taking his lead role as he should. Yes.
Gilbert.
Let me make reference to Bonakosgei. One of the issues I want to raise is that the reason I think Raila's name has to suffice is that Raila has been the snake in the political competition. So you know, even when you've killed a snake, but you know this is a poisonous snake,
still kill it.
You keep hitting because you don't know whether it's awake and then it resurrects to actually bite you. So they are not sure yet. You remember one of the political bigwigs from Rift Valley once said that their biggest worry in the Uhuru Ruto government 2013-2017 was what Raila Odinga was thinking. And in as much as you'd want to give credit to William Ruto that he carries out his political schemes with the military precision, but he's still a human being. He's not a god. The fear of what Raila might do. Uhuru, you remember they said since Raila joined Uhuru had even added some weight. The peace that he experienced. So I think that is the reason why we see them, continuing to hit him on the head, even though he's on the ground. But as a citizen and as a society, we also have a duty to hold them accountable. We cannot be clapping when just 2 months ago they promised us that they were going to provide instant solutions to things that affect us. When it was argued that the price of oil has gone up because of war in Ukraine, the president now dismissed and said the problem is arising from our problems within. And therefore we believed that as soon as he came to office, that was something that he could basically just bring down immediately. The cost of hunger, he said, is not related to any external issue. He said it's something that he thinks it can be brought down immediately. He promised watu wa chini that I am actually going to make sure that these things come down. Now we hear they're saying it will be after a year. They say, you see, it came down, but we can't feel it. On the ground, people are actually concerned with real things that affect them. Issues of perhaps, for example, gender-based violence, issues about quality of life. Those are things that affect real Kenyans. Just about over the weekend, I think a teacher organization called Kenya Women Teachers Association rescued 15 girls in Nyaroha girls because they were just about to undergo female genital mutilations. In other words, Kenyans have real problems that they would want this government to fix as opposed to stories. However, on the flip side, I think William Ruto's presidency might be good for us in this perspective. In the 5 years that has led Kosgei to be so bitter, however, I think it actually made him experience what the common person experiences. Common person is arrested by cops every day. The common person is always dragged in court for one reason or another. So they are able to experience what we actually feel as watu wa chini. Therefore, that puts him in a better state to provide solutions to the issue that we face. For example, taxation. We are overtaxed in this country. I'm just disappointed that instead of talking about reduction of taxes, he's talking about expanding while maintaining the status quo of the tax system. So I'm sure perhaps that's what is coming out, but perhaps he has a better mechanism of making sure that even KRA is more disciplined in how they handle as citizens.
We're going to talk about
but you had, I'm still on Rigathi Gachagua, you had Gachagua saying that thank you for bringing an end to the politics of deceit. A confirmation that we are still on the side mirror. I think Ruto has done better in this regard, because the promises he made to his people, he executed like 80% of that, except for a few. We've seen Sonko is still not in cabinet, Malala is not in cabinet, the guy of Mombasa is not in cabinet. But a number of his political supporters, he has actually honored the promises he gave them. So I think that gives him a political score on his side. Yeah.
Kosgei, they're still on the rear mirror?
I ran for office, and I'm not complaining. He has said that he has kept his promises to very many people. There are very many people who would like to be included in the current government, but how he leads and how he talks to people, he convinces, he will talk to you personally that you understand that priority needs to be taken this way and this way. So no one is running anywhere, no one wants to go to the cabinet. The way you're saying that Malala is not in cabinet yet. People are contented where they are. His leadership is on point, and we will look at him after 5 years, and we'll come and look at what he has done after 5 years. But I want to promise you that what this guy is going to do, let me just not use big words. Anyway, for the rear mirror, I will still maintain that for us to know where we're going, we need to understand our history. If I come to Nairobi and I forget that I'm called Kosgei and I forget that I'm Kalenjin and I come from down there, then I'll be losing track. So I have to know where I'm going, and we have to know that is what will inform what we are going to do in future. The argument first is public workers, you included, should stay as public workers. That is the argument, and that is the rear mirror they are using, that chiefs and commissioners were used to run campaigns. And now that we're in government, these campaigns cannot be run again by the chiefs. If we don't retrospect, then we will not know where we're going. Tomorrow, we will start using the same chiefs. Tomorrow, we will start using the same PSs and same commissioners to pour money somewhere or to ferry people into a...
Do you think the common mwananchi really need to understand what happened in the rear mirror? I mean, perhaps someone in your local village down there did not have a direct effect of what was happening at the top seat of the political ladder, so to speak. When you have the rear mirror and now you have the bigger windscreen to focus ahead and where we're heading to, do you think the common mwananchi really cares?
I'll give you an example. Before elections, just 2 weeks before elections, there's some letters that were spread down the Rift Valley.
Yeah.
Scaring the common mwananchi.
Let me just use alleged because we can't authenticate that.
Okay. So the common mwananchi went through moments where they were thinking, well, our lives are going to be shaken by the forthcoming election. So many people got affected even down there by whatever our political players are doing up here. So it went down, Victor. It went down. So as we are moving forward, I do not have any objection to the people who are telling us that it is not business as usual. It is not, we shouldn't continue with what the Premier was doing because he was in government.
Yeah.
That's why we keep on mentioning the Premier, the former Premier, every time, because he was part of everything.
Wakili, how do you think now that the cabinet is fully in place? 22 members, they have all been sworn in, and actually it's now rubber meets the road. For some of them, the very day they were sworn in, they were in office, they were doing their job. It's all systems go. What should we expect of the current government now that the president is now set, the full mandate is now with full grip of his government, 5 years now, counting.
I think one thing I can say that I have no doubt is that they will deliver. If you look at how the president has structured his cabinet, very professional people have been put to head the various dockets. And of course, I know how the president works. As I have heard, he's very, let me say, hands-on with his cabinet. So I know there'll be certain targets that they'll have to meet. They will have to actually give reports on how they are progressing.
Yeah.
So in terms of delivery, that I have no doubt. And of course, everyone will be keen to see the various dockets and how they are performing. The one thing I can just say is that within the 5 years, you see the president really, let me say, gave various promises, and we don't know whether, or I hope in the 5 years he'll be able to deliver, but I think the cabinet secretaries will be put to task to deliver the agenda that he campaigned on. Yeah.
There was a bit of a scare when during the cabinet nomination, Malonza, until it was amended by Parliament, and parliamentarians had to do their thing, and luckily all of them had to pass. Gilbert, what do you think? The whole government is now in place, and the government is now banking on his cabinet ministers to deliver.
Yes, thank you, Victor, for that question. First, I would want to say that mgema akisifiwa sana tembo ulitia maji. So we run the risk of overpraising to the extent then the person might forget the core responsibility that they have. If you look at the cabinet now fully in place in Ruto's government, I think he's done fairly well in the sense that he's been able to give key ministries to key political players. Aden Duale, for example, was a very efficient majority leader in parliament.
Yeah.
Kithure Kindiki, Prof, is a mover and a shaker. And if you look at, even Miano, for example, she has done well at Kengen. Now, the other thing that I'm happy about is that they said they're going to amend standing orders. I'm not sure whether it's amended yet, so that the cabinet secretaries are able to answer questions directly to members of parliament, which I think is a good step, because then it enhances accountability. What I'm keen about is how the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary, Mithika Linturi, will perform, because agriculture, I think, is, apart from education and defense, is one of the ministries that take a lot of government funding. And you have seen that in the Republic of Kenya, there has been a conversation around privatization of sugar mills and many agricultural farms. And one of the issues that has made it hard for the privatization of these mills is because political players have learned to lampoon cases in court so that you can extend this as much as it takes.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the private players continue to reap big from this. So I'm looking at how bold will he be to do things differently to be able to make sugar millers back on their feet. How he does it, or what he does, essentially that now is what rests on his docket. And also how he will handle the legislative agenda around GMO. I think we need to have a national policy on how we deal with GMO. And the government position on what GMOs essentially are, because we have opposing sides, each supporting others saying GMO is okay, others saying GMO is okay. We, the consumers, where are we in that regard? So I think, as my sister here said, that Ruto is a hands-on person. So you will see his hands everywhere, in as much as he says this government is going to be led by technocrats who have given cabinet positions. But you can be sure you will do what I think merits the consideration and the interest of the president. That in effect has the potential of making the cabinet secretary perform well, because you can't cheat this boss. He knows what's going on.
Okay. Yeah. Before I come to you, Koske, we have got ladies in the cabinet. Your point of that, are you happy? Did you perhaps expect more to fill in the cabinet slots?
You know, one thing we have seen post the 2010 constitution, the issue of the 2/3 gender rule has not yet been fully implemented. But if you see the ratio of men to women in this current cabinet and the previous one, of course there's improvement. But one thing we are looking at, it's not just the increase of women, but how they will perform.
Yeah.
Okay, we also see that also Honorable the current chair of the Council of Governors is Waiguru. Yes, and we are also keen to see what is their input in the various positions that they are given. You see, we do not just want the quantity, but also quality leadership. So I think also it's a win for women, but it's now up to them to really improve the perception of women leaders in politics.
Edgar, there must be a lot of pressure on the cabinet. If you heard what the president said, there is no room for failure in this government. I would imagine now what's now running through the minds of all these cabinet secretaries. You take somebody like Murkomen, who is a lawyer, now heading the road transport, and transport department. And of course, somebody would argue that, you know, as a CS, you are the top boss, but now the better part of the job will be done by the PS and the people who are behind you. There must be a lot of pressure for the CSs now to deliver.
If you've walked close to the president, you will know that he walks like a horse. I voted for him. I didn't vote for Murkomen.
And now that now transcends to the cabinet secretaries?
Yes. I didn't vote for Murkomen. I didn't vote for Duale. And the person we are seeing here is the president. And that is why he's working like that. And these people, if they are not used to waking up at 4 a.m., trust you me, these guys are going to disappoint him very much. In as much as people are playing politics, in as much as these are politicians, we expect them to deliver. On our side, we are not cows. And we are not going to be told, oh, support William Ruto, just support him. No. In fact, the irreducible minimums that we would want to have these 5 years is that we do not want to see any extreme poverty again. I've seen people going without food for days in northern Kenya. Sometimes you wonder whether Turkana is Kenya. That should be a thing of the past, and he knows that. And we want also to see that poverty has been reduced by 50%. He knows that. And food, when you look at the United Nations Charter on Food, the SDGs on food, is what he has adapted. The second one, that's why he is thinking about giving us food that we don't have. When you look at the gender, what you've asked her about the gender, see, he was quick to point out that we have seven governors. We have seven governors. 7 governors, yes. Women, female. And he was quick to congratulate them because that is one of the pillars of the development of the United Nations, as in an outlook of how a nation should be. You know, the social housing plan is what he has to run with. You know, no one has told him that you have to run with it. The opposition were really waiting to pin down this guy. But look, he's not looking at the opposition. First, he's encouraging them. Stand up, come and look at what I'm doing. He told Raila, look at what I'm doing. We are not going to have a handshake because I want you to look at what I'm doing. So now that we have a cabinet in place, they know, even the Minister for Energy knows that we have to go for clean energy and sustainable, efficient energy in our country. First, make sure that we are all connected to the grid. After that, now, think about solar and think about wind turbine. The work is cut for these people, and I am telling you, they are scared, not because of the common Mwananchi or the opposition leader, the former premier. No.
That reminds you of the ambassadors who are told you have to pay 70%. If not, you'll have to come back and explain why that's happening. Gilbert, you know, when you look at the way, you know, the cabinet secretaries are in place, fine. But then now, Mwananchi is now waiting and seeing, okay, fine, we elected you guys. The president, you've done your bit, your cabinet is in place. But they say that the president is as good as the cabinet. They're going to deliver. If they don't perform, the president, in fact, they say the buck now will have to stop at the president. Give me a picture of what really runs through the minds of the cabinet secretaries. I have one of them who texted me at 3:30 a.m. These guys are not sleeping. There must be a lot of pressure right now. He sent me a message at 3:52 a.m.
I think the cabinet is as good as the president,
yes,
and not the president, and the other way around, because you essentially do what you implement the president's dream. Those who have worked with Ruto, as Kosgei says, the gentleman is a person who works in a different capacity that would merit perhaps admiration from a number of people. But those who may not be, pro, execution of work in real time will really find it hard to work with him. Because I remember when he was the minister in the higher education, and he was telling universities, you can do double intake. And they were giving him stories. He said, gentlemen, this can be done. And I have seen that he has carried that philosophy even yesterday and on Friday when he was at KRA. He gave two instances. One, he said, we don't have a law that enables Nairobi County to increase land rates. He also said, for example, that he had proposed that we increase NSSF contributions, but we were told we don't have a law. And he said, but he did it differently. He was able to bring the Chief Justice and a few other people, and they were able to gazette, and therefore that then can happen as required. So what he's saying, and then he went ahead to tell KRA that the era of cosmetic branding in the name of doing things differently is over. So the president is someone who is looking at, yes, this path is inaccessible, but how many other paths can we create? And therefore that new thinking that I think he's bringing will essentially find its place in the cabinet secretary. I'm sure along the way there are some who will fall by the wayside and others will come in. So I think it's a good achievement for some of them, especially for the people who have been, Owalo for example, I think this has been a good achievement for him, because you remember what happened to him when he was on Raila camp in 2007, the fallout, and he left, and people felt he made a bad decision, but it seems that the decision he made has finally paid off. So I think that really is a good start for Eliud Owalo and many others. But for the rest who perhaps have been given because I have to pacify people of a particular area, like Asha Juma, who was essentially given that cabinet portfolio to pacify the gentlemen and ladies from the coast. They have been left out of key portfolios in government. And therefore, we wait to see whether she will do well. You remember what happened to Echesa during his vetting? Many people had a lot of questions about him, but we said, let's see what he can do. He messed it up and he fell by the wayside. So I wish her well to prove the naysayers wrong. So that is what awaits the cabinet secretary.
When you look at that, Atieno, Wakili, the expectation now is that they are going to deliver. But there is one aspect of kila mtu lazima alipe ushuru. So which means the cabinet secretaries will have to deliver, yes. But what about you and I? First of all, we have to pay taxes for the cabinet secretaries to deliver. Now that begs the question, where are the jobs? Because for you to pay taxes, there must be certain level of income. And now that's what the president is banking on.
I think when the president gave this direction to increase the tax burden, I think he should have maybe considered the issue of the jobs. And I'm thinking one thing that will be very critical is to see how the informal sector will bear the tax burden, because most of the let me say, income tax that is being paid, of course, is from the formal sector.
Yes.
And we are seeing that he's saying that everyone above 18 should be taxed. So what is the basis of this? Because you see, in implementing any policy, there has to be some research done, there has to be some groundwork that has been laid. What is the basis of him saying that every person above 18 should be taxed?
There's so many over 18 who are still in high school.
Exactly, and even who are in campus and are not earning anything. You see, I think also as he tries to implement his agenda, there has to be some form of realistic ways that he's connecting his agenda with actually the real situation in the ground. Because we cannot expect people between the age of 18 and 25 to have any formal source of income. You're still a developing economy. And also one thing, again, with the increasing taxation burden, we know that, like for example, corporation tax is usually a lot on both, let me say, foreign incorporated companies and companies in Kenya. So it might actually make investors to shy away from investing in Kenya. So I think he should have a balance and a clear laid out plan and actually say, what is this plan? Because I think we remember very well the vifaranga, sorry, not the vifaranga of computer, but the laptops which were promised and they were not delivered. Okay, so also as we have things to point out that there are things he said in the past and they were not workable. Is this a policy that will be implementable and sustainable, and will it actually motivate people to work harder, or will it motivate people to actually shy away from paying taxes?
So Gilbert, now what would be the alternative? Because when you have got 18, you are above 18, there should be a proposal that so long as you clock the legal age, pay taxes.
No, I think we need to be fair to the president here and understand where he's coming from. And his conversation around tax did not begin today. Even yesterday, that was the climax of essentially how he thinks the tax regime should operate in this country. My understanding of the president messaging around tax is that I'm saying, yes, we are in a country where the tax payment regime has been imbalanced. In fact, he said yesterday that the wadosis are the problem. The president has wale watu wa chini chini hawana shida. So what the president is saying, that essentially most Kenyans perform their tax obligations, but there are people who own billions of shillings who don't pay taxes. And he had said that for me, what I would like is that let's pay taxes according to our what?
So that message was directed to the big shots.
Yeah, let's pay our taxes according to our sizes.
Yes.
If I'm earning 100 million, then why should I not pay 10 million? If I'm earning 1,000 shillings, then why should I not give the government maybe 50 shillings from that? And the biggest source of tax in Kenya is pay as you earn. So perhaps as he speaks about this, he should also be cognizant of the fact that much of the money he expects comes from jobs. And therefore, in as much as he expands the tax bracket, let's also create more job opportunities so that you can be able to get the much money that you need to run the government. But he also made proposals about taxes. That's why I think his conversation around tax is very genuine. He's telling KRA that your philosophy around tax collection has been detrimental to the economic growth of this country. And Rigathi Gachagua exemplifies this by saying, you have someone who gives you 50 million of 100 million shillings a month. Yes, he has 1 billion shillings to pay you. When you close his business, you've missed 1 billion and you missed the 100 million per month. So what essentially are you bringing money to government, or you're counterproductive to the government agenda? So he was saying, let's rethink our strategy around tax collection so that going forward we keep collecting more and conversing more with people. But he also threw the spanner into the works that I also know now, the president, that Tanzania, a smaller economy, Uganda, a smaller economy, on excise duty, they sell about 7 9. Our country only does 2 billion. Then he said, what is it? Where is the balance going? So he's saying you are focusing on the wrong areas. You already have because excise duty is mandatory for every transaction that you have. So I think the president has legitimate expectation around how we can improve our tax system without us saying that he's coming to tax us more than we should. In any case, if you're not in employment or if you're not engaged in business, we do not expect you to pay tax, because tax is, you know, an extra from what you have earned. So I think, but perhaps the jitters come from the fact that he made comparison with Safaricom, that is able to, you know, only 7 million Kenyans are paying tax. Safaricom, registered on PIN, have PIN numbers. Safaricom has 30 million. But remember, Safaricom has invested in a service that every other person has. And there are people in this country who have 3 or 4 numbers. There are corporations that also have mobile, really. But KRA, even to get a PIN, the process of getting a PIN is so hard that they will continue even to hit 10 million will be so difficult. Unless they make it easier, as getting a SIM card is as easy as just walking out to the nearest shop and getting it. And the other thing that I think awaits the president, I need to think about this. I'm glad that he talked about KRA being a service as opposed to an authority. Just walk to Times Towers here. That is the place where we should be remitting our taxes. Accessing that building is like, it is easier to get to the Defense College than getting to KRA. And this is an institution that is supposed to be collecting money for government. So I think first it should be dismantled. It should be in an open place where we pass and see that, oh, this is where, you know, a transparent place, as opposed to that kind of, you know, exclusion from the society.
But you're right, because you have got several barriers before you reach the main entrance. You'll have to pass through so many barriers before you get to the main entrance of the care. All right. So, gentlemen, let me take a break. When you come back, I still want us to dig more on that. And so, which means Kenya is a rich country, Koske. Then we are able to sustain ourselves, if that is the case then.
It is very rich.
Okay, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more.
Sijaonja huyu samaki, anakaa kuonjwa.
Wewe tunawajua, bana utalipa. Usinilete hiyo mchezo yako tu.
Ni nani wewe mnaongea na yeye?
Unaishi Mbitika lakini bado yuko Fimbioti. Kwa hivyo mimi Skimbioti alikuwa dambata hii chombotomia Jimbioti.
Okay, ndio sijaelewa exactly ni nini unataka nieleze polepole. Unauliza nini? Ona, I'm speaking English, you are speaking KBC. No wonder unapata hii.
This week on Tech on Tech, we tell you how legal meets tech.
Our application is called Legal Tech Services. It's a web-based application, and what it does is allow for the exchange of legal services.
In tech news, e-insurance startup bags 1.2 billion in Series A drive, and internationally, Elon Musk presents Optimus. This is a humanoid robot. More details in our tech news roundup.
Join me, Stephanie Ayeta and Grace Gidaiga, as we serve you with only the best tech updates the world over.
Take on Tech every Monday at 10:30 p.m. on KBC Channel 1. Stay tuned.
But this is a very precarious situation.
All right.
Do it now.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do as you say. I am willing to face the consequences with that idiot Leonel.
Now do it. Cover your ugly face now. Cover it.
Do you know where he is? No, I don't, boss, but I heard he ran away. Do you know if any of your friends are aware where he might have gone? Let go of me.
Mo. Let him go. Let him go.
Get out of here, Rene. Hey, go of me. I come in peace.
Everyone calm.
But I really need to see my father.
You really have no shame.
Okay, I admit it. That I did use her. But I never wanted to hurt her.
How can you expect me to believe that you're sorry when you pick my worst enemy to sell them to? How can you expect me to believe you? You just came to play me, but you won't fool me.
Dad, it's not like that. I didn't have any choice.
Your mother is not an ordinary woman. She has many important things to deal with. She can't stay with you every day.
I guess it's fate that all of this has ended up in your hands. If it weren't for you, who knows how long it would have taken to find Mars. Master? Earlier, Zeno had told me that I'd find you here. I'm supposed to do it with you. But now I need to transfer my energy to my master, which means I don't think I'll be able to be your queen.
And welcome back. Now we are coming almost to the tail end of this discussion. There's a question here, and this one all of you will have to answer. Now the president is talking, the deputy president is talking about Raila Odinga. Is it trying to bring in Raila Odinga into his cabinet through back door to tame him, or what are they trying to do? Let me start with you, Koske.
I shouldn't have
because I think this statement is meant. Remember 2 weeks ago,
yes.
They said Kalonzo was called upon to join.
Yes.
Actually, it was last week.
Yes.
Kalonzo Musyoka was called into cabinet and he said no. But still, they are still calling him to join the cabinet. And now they don't want Raila Odinga, but they were calling on Kalonzo Musyoka. So where are they? Based on that question.
Kalonzo was called into the government since last year. You remember when they were going to convince the electorate?
Yes.
Tumeambia huyu jamaa kuja kufanya na sisi. That was the language on the ground.
Yes.
So they've been wooing Kalonzo for the longest time, even up to now, up to today. So if Kalonzo decides to ditch the opposition, he will have a place in government.
To whose advantage and disadvantage?
Well, to the advantage of the country, because
you're being smart on that question.
Well, to the advantage of the country, because one, we don't have to be in the opposition, all of us. We should leave the opposition for those people who want to be in the opposition.
And Kalonzo doesn't need to be in the opposition, according to you?
No one does. No one should be in the court.
Who are these people who are supposed to be left to who belong to the opposition?
One, the opposition leader, right? The opposition leader should be in the opposition. And this narrative is going around that the opposition leader is being quoted.
Yes.
Is something that should not appear in any discussion anywhere, because the opposition leader belongs to the opposition, criticizing the government positively for the government to deliver. But you do not have to be with him.
Okay.
Kalonzo I would talk to him too. You don't have to be the opposition leader.
Yes.
And all those affiliate parties of Azimio, it is time to fold your mat and join the government. But now let's leave the opposition leader with his people.
That is not
the
possible.
People who
that is not possible. Azimio as a coalition have a big legal binding document. And you can imagine all the Azimio folding and joining the government. That would be like, quote unquote, what was in the President Kenyatta's regime.
What was the President Kenyatta's regime?
Where people say
was a handshake of how many people? 2.
Exactly.
You see, the reason why I'm calling it the handshake of 2 people is because Musalia even didn't know that there was a handshake. Alishtukia tu asubuhi, wow, kuna ka handshake. Wetangula. Kalonzo complained the whole time that we were left behind. William Ruto on this other side, when he was the deputy president, said, those are brothers, and he's my president, and let him do the handshake. So, the handshake carried the leader and the people. The people agreed, but the lieutenants of the former premier, those people who were supporting him at the top, did not agree. So, whatever it is that is happening now, see how those people who are part of Azimio, they moved immediately, Ruto won, into the government, despite this legally binding agreement you're talking about. And they were like, 3 months after election, you are free to make your own choices. Why haven't these people even gone to court to put UDM to task for moving into the government side? Because it will not hold water. They have seen it. So, whatever it is, people should not be in the court. But the former premier has a task, which he should do. Cut out for him. But it is quite unfortunate that there is no office with PACs. That is what we should look at. That the opposition is very important, that it should have 1 recognizable office, 2 shadow ministers, 3 everything.
I think that's one of the things the president was also talking about, that they'll have an amendment in parliament for an opposition leader to have,
to be respected.
Exactly.
Because around 6 million Kenyans are behind it, or something like that. So we should amend that. And those people now who want to be in the cold should be in the cold.
All right, I'll still ask you that question, whether Kenya is rich or not, but that question was meant for you. But Gilbert, based on this question, the question being asked is, are they trying to woo Raila Odinga to join the government slightly and silently? And to whose advantage?
They're using a different strategy to weaken Raila Odinga. I don't think it is in the interest of the Kenya Kwanza to have Raila Odinga share a piece of the cake like they did with Uhuru Kenyatta. What they are doing is to kill all his foot soldiers so that he's completely weakened. You know that he's not a young man anymore. And therefore, if you look at the numbers, Ukambani gave Raila Odinga wholeheartedly, with all their hearts. And therefore, if you call Kalonzo to your side, you're essentially inheriting the constituency of Kalonzo. And you've seen Kalonzo making trips to Nyanza and other places. And it has been argued that perhaps he's also thinking, he has, showed statesmanship to Raila Odinga by supporting him 3 times. And there is no other time for the people of that place to also return favor. So he stands a better chance. So by trying to call him to government, you just want him to face the suffer the consequences of Mudavadi and Wetangula's dining with the president. Now they're on the president's side. You can be sure for the next 10 years, if they stay as cabinet secretary, by the time 10 years are done, Musalia Mudavadi will have no ambitions of becoming the president of this country. Wetangula will have no ambitions of becoming the president of this country. It will be a new breed. So the president would want to have a smoother transition into 2027 without a very strong opposition like Uhuru Kenyatta and even Mwai Kibaki. That is what is driving him.
Okay.
So Raila will not come to the government in the interest of Kenya Kwanza.
Wakili.
What I can say is that we are all aware that the coalition party agreement that they signed expires on 9th of November. Now, as my colleagues have said, this is a strategy that they're using because for sure if you're not, as I've said earlier, if they're not saying anything or doing anything, it's usually for an intention, an intended purpose. So the fact that they know that the coalition agreement expires on 9th of November, and therefore there will be no binding agreement for the parties who are within the Azimio coalition. And therefore now calling out Raila and trying to show, or I don't know, to depict to the people how maybe he was not, let me say, he did not do his best, or for whichever reasons they are calling him out, is a strategy to be able to win more people to the Kenya Kwanza side. Yes.
And what if Kalonzo doesn't join them? Do you see Kalonzo going full throttle to 2027?
I think with Kalonzo, considering I was part of the team that was creating the OCA agreement, it's hard to really predict him. Okay, we can just say that for him, he goes where his interests are met, and of course, I'm sure he still has political ambitions. So for him, it's up to him to decide what suits him best. And of course, as we earlier said, there are no permanent friends or enemies
in politics.
Yes, so he will go where his interests are met.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Kosgei, is Kenya a rich country?
Let me give you some few statistics, though not accurate to the point. We're collecting 2.1 trillion as we speak now. Our wage bill is 1.6.
And now the president has raised that to 3 trillion.
No, he is yet to.
He's yet to?
Yes, he has given them a target of 3 trillion. Our budget as we speak is 3.3 trillion. Our budget deficit is 1.4 trillion. So, to meet the country's needs, we borrow 1.4 trillion. Or they're about 1.6. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if we move our collection from 2.1 trillion to 3 trillion, then, and we maintain our budget at 3.3, then we'll have a deficit of 300 billion. That's why the president has said we don't need 300 billion. So that we don't borrow.
Okay.
So push this collection to 3 trillion. And then he has said, within 5 years, we double it to 6 trillion. How? Widening the tax base. And he said, we're going to change the tax regime. We tax the wealthy first. And everybody has to pay taxes, he said, including me. It means that if you are
including his companies.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what he's saying. If you looked into it very well, that I have been paying taxes. That he was not excluded from paying taxes, even if he was the deputy president. He was not. But the former regime, there are people who are sacred cows who are not paying taxes. That's why he's saying, I'll be keen to see that those who are wealthy pay taxes. And you tax the country in this manner, wealth, and then you go to entrepreneurs. After that, you finish with an employee down there in that manner. He said that if you change it like that, then you will hit 3 trillion. After that now, come with policies that will widen the tax bracket and empower the local mwananchi by giving him the 50 billion that he said, that now everyone will be thinking of how to come up with an idea and to raise some amount of money. That's how now the tax bracket is going to be widened. And by the time we reach 5 years, I am thinking, I'm not actually sure, that we'll have hit 6 trillion. We will not have to borrow. Another thing he's targeting is NSSF, or your savings. That actually you won't lose your money, but you will loan it to the government so that when you retire, after 30 years of service, then your money still belongs to you. That is his argument. I don't know where he's headed to, but what I want to caution Kenyans is that we need to be part of the conversation. When you listen to him talking about the taxes, stop and think, what is he saying? Is it beneficial to me?
Yeah.
What can I tell him so that he can change 1, 2, 3? That's why there's this conversation. And if you listen to my colleagues here, it is a very informed conversation.
And do you think we can go as a country without borrowing, based on his agenda? Because so far we've not had him talk of, visiting, World Bank or IMF or something of that sort. Can we sustain ourselves as a country?
Yes, we can, and I think also one thing that he should be at the forefront of handling is the issue of corruption.
Yeah.
Because yes, we will collect the taxes, yes, we will put the necessary policies to be able to increase the money that is retained within government, but who are the people who are actually at the forefront of safeguarding these processes? I think as a country, when we focus on actually curbing corruption, rather than, of course, improving the policies and not putting the safeguards within which we collect the revenue from whichever sources that we do, we can be able to actually avoid borrowing. Because I think also one thing, as I've been trying to look at how African countries always borrow from the West or from actually China, it's because of the various corruption scandals in the country. And I think I am very keen to see, as an advocate, I've seen one of my seniors say that actually practicing in the anti-corruption court has become one of the 1,000 ways to die as a lawyer, because some of these people who are involved in these corruption scandals are the people who are in government. So for me, I'll be very keen to see how he's handling the issues to do with corruption as he tries to collect the revenue that he should within the country.
We are in total debt right now, but much as he's trying to realign his government, Gilbert, we are also aware of the foreign debt that we still have as a country. So he doesn't want to borrow, yes. He wants to realign his government. He wants to achieve. So how is he going to balance the two? He must deliver, but pay the foreign debts that we still owe foreign jurisdictions.
I think he has seen that the only way out is to do what Kibaki did. And you've had every time they speak, they make reference to the Kibaki regime, totally ignore the regime that they were part of for 5 years or for 10 years, and then now, uplift what they're yet to do. So I think he's aware, having been a cabinet secretary in Kibaki government, that indeed through, internal sources, we are able to sustain ourselves. But governments the world over borrow. And even them, what I would like also the president to tell us is what really changed, because in 2013, when they just inherited the Kibaki's government that is so praised for having, done away with the external borrowing, they started borrowing, and they borrowed also as much. And now 2017, 2022, when there is a handshake, borrowing becomes a problem. So perhaps he also needs to be very consistent and come out on what he thought then about borrowing and why they had borrow, having inherited a government that was essentially self-sustaining, and the difference now. But on your question on whether or not there is money in this country, there is a lot of money in this country. Why does everybody want to be a politician? Why is it that all the richest people in this country are politicians? The richest people, the president, former president, are the richest people in this country. Why would you spend billions of shillings to earn a salary of just 1 million shillings per month? So indeed there is a lot of money. Apart from corruption, we also need to safeguard, our collection mechanism, so that not a lot of money becomes undeclared.
All right.
Yes.
Let's take a break, and when you come back, I'm coming back with your final thoughts, and probably go through the social media and get what the people asking on our social media handles. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with the final bit of this discussion.
Sijaonja huyu samaki, anakaa kuonjwa.
Wewe tunawajua bana, utalipa. Usinilete hiyo mchezo yako tu.
Ni nani wewe mnaongea na yeye?
Ehe. Unaishimbitika lakini bado yuko fimbioti. Kwa hivyo umeskimbitia nilikuwa dambata hii chumbotomia jimbioti.
Okay, ndio sijaelewa exactly ni nini unataka nieleze polepole. Unauliza nini? Ona, I'm speaking English, you are speaking KBC. No wonder unapata hii.
Say to make it right, 'cause I need your arms around me every night. I love my girl to some baby. I call her on the phone, tell her I'm coming, don't something
Yani hivi mtu mzima wewe, hujawahi kulishwa na mtu yoyote dunia hii sasa. Vipi ule mpango wako wewe na bi mkubwa umefikia wapi?
Huoni haya kunisimamia namna hiyo ulio?
Maisha yetu hayakuhusu wewe hapa, ni uondoke.
Wajua sipendi hii tabia yako kutoka na mtoto wangu bila kuniambia wewe.
Zari, ulikuwa umelala bana?
Hii ni haki yangu and I always get what I want.
All right, welcome back. Now we are coming to a close of this discussion. I'm going to give you, gentlemen and lady, for you to give your final remarks on this. A lot is happening. Of course, we should expect again the CBC, the task force starting their job today, the public participation to get their views, and thereafter they'll also present their total report to the president. But just get your final remarks as we come to an end, starting with you, Akili.
What I can say is that when the Kenyans go to the ballot every election year, they hope for change. And I think the hustler narrative really was drummed into Kenyans' ears, and of course they believe that there's going to be some form of change, or they hope for a better tomorrow. I can tell Kenyans to really hope for the best and wait and see, but also for our leaders to live up to the expectations, because they created a legitimate expectation within the Kenyans, and also that they should just try to make Kenyans' lives better, because the issue with mostly African politics is that people sometimes forget their core mandate, and people tend to now amass wealth when they're in those positions. So I hope that the leaders who have been put in place will really look out for the interests of Kenyans, and of course we hope to see growth within the next 5 years.
Yes. We still have got the position of the PSS still pending, and we know 49 of them will have to fit in different positions. What should you expect? Because now the CS slot is now completely sealed. Now the 49 remaining PSS and all of the heads of parastatals and what have you. What should you expect?
Of course, the allies will be rewarded. That is obvious. But also because we know the PSS are, by the nature of their jobs, expected to do more in terms of implementing the various government policies. We hope to see that more people with the technical expertise in the various ministries will be put as PSs. And also we hope to see, of course, the gender balance within also the appointment of the PSs. Yes.
Gilbert, a lot more still coming up for the president. He's not yet settled. Second month and still having his government in shape fully.
Considering the fact that he does not have the people with authority to incur expenditure in various ministries. I know that the president is keen on having technocrats as his PSs as opposed to politicians. But of course, you'll expect a few like Sosion. I see he's with the president all the time. A few politicians will be, because you also have to give your people who supported you. It's a political environment. But certainly, to a great extent, you'll see a lot of technocrats finding their space in the PS environment to enable the president execute his agenda. Because you remember the cabinet secretary essentially political figureheads. But in conclusion, as I hope that also this is an opportunity to conclude that I expect the president also to be magnanimous and to stop behaving like a spoiled child of privilege. Ulikuwa unaninyima mkate, sasa niko na mkate, utafanya? You see, let him be the gentleman. Our elections are generally very invasive and divisive, but let them be the uniting factor. Let them, so that everybody, when you show me good, I will always do good. But when you continue drumming my head and there is already paining, because imagine the pain. I know Azimio people are really hurting because there had been promised that this government is ours, we are going to get it. Then suddenly you don't get it. So I hope that he's going to be a gentleman and lead the country with the magnanimity of a president who wants to unite the country and let us achieve a better tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Koskei, your closing remarks. Even as you answer that, the president has abandoned Kazim Tani, all right? Saying that, Kazim Tani is not going to be there. So Kenya, they are going to start saving and what have you. Remember, he said that in Kibra. As you come to close on that, your closing remarks.
Well, the discussion about Kazim Tani is a long one. And there are reasons behind it. Because Kazim Taani, you do not know what to pay for certain services, because after someone has graduated, you give them a djembe to go and dig somewhere. So quantifying the amount of work and the skill level required for that work is a hard one. That's why I was telling you, it is a discussion that we can have it another time. For now, let's leave it aside. You've mentioned CBC.
Yes.
That the task force has now started.
Exactly today.
Functioning today. Now, what we expect from CBC as we go forward, because they've been given 6 months to deliver, we want free primary and free secondary education. And that, I think that is what they should capture. And accessible and affordable university education and tertiary schools. And we want our teachers to be remunerated very well, because without education, you wouldn't be here. Because what made you fit for this place is your education and your purpose. So you prepare a nation using education. We shouldn't be playing for such a thing. Another final thought on the incoming cabinet secretaries is that a choir cannot be above the choir master. So the way the president is working is how everyone who's been appointed, whether PSs, had you mentioned PSs, the CSs, and everyone coming. And lastly, get ready for a roller coaster. This is not the usual president.
Get ready for a roller coaster. You said something. A choir should not be ahead of the choir master.
No, it can't be.
Go as per the conduct of the choir master.
Yes.
Okay. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for your time. We've had a fruitful conversation here, and hopefully things are going to be better for this country. Just to bring up to speed, today the Deputy President, that is Rigathi Gachagua, this morning is expected to preside over the launch of the Kenya Youth Employment Entrepreneurship Accelerator Program, otherwise known as KYEEAP, by Kenya Private Sector Association, or KEPSA. So Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua will preside over the launch of the Kenya Youth Empowerment Entrepreneurship Accelerator Program. That is going to be happening this morning. So that and much more will be coming up later on in our subsequent bulletins, so keep it right here. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. We'll be speaking to Edgar Kosgei, who is a political analyst, as well as Gilbert Awino, who is a budding lawyer and a communication expert, and Fanile Atieno, who is advocate of the High Court. I think now I should let you go and build Kenyans and pay taxes. Pay taxes. All right? Okay. Asanteni sana. Up next is a very nice feature on military. Where are we? A very nice feature coming up after this. Good morning.
The African Union Transition Mission in Somalia came into operations on the 1st of April 2022 after its authorization by the African Union and mandated by the United Nations Security Council, AU Peace and Security Council Resolution 2068 of 2022. The mandate of ATMIS is to fully implement the Somali Transition Plan. The multi-dimensional mission involves the military, police and civilian component in its mandate overview, which is to support the capacity building of the integrated Somali security and police forces, reduce the threat posed by Al-Shabaab, support peace and reconciliation efforts in Somalia, and conduct the phased handover of security responsibilities to Somalia. All this is done with the Somali forces taking the lead role. For the success of this mission that is supposed to run until December 2024, when the final exit is expected to occur by ATMIS forces, 5 countries, namely Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Djibouti and Burundi, have jointly contributed 18,586 troops to ATMIS for defensive and offensive mechanisms. These efforts are complemented by police contributing countries Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Uganda and Zambia, who also provide mentorship to the Somali police forces as well as helping in capacity building. The police unit has a force strength of 1,040. In our first day in Mogadishu, Somalia, we met with the force's Commandant Lieutenant General Diomedin Dekeya. He says since its deployment, ATMIS has embraced tactics that will ensure the successful implementation of the transition plan.
Our effort is on holding the terrain by co-location of our FOB with Somali forces. We don't leave any forward operating bases when we don't see that Somalis are able to handle it defensively. And all this is also being supported by the local forces and the support of the local population. So this is a game changer in Somalia. If it is replicated in all sectors, we will not have Al-Shabaab probably by end of 2023.
On the police side, we'll link up with contingent commander of the Kenya Police in the mission, Alex Munyao, who says their mentorship coupled with the civilian and military collaboration is slowly steering the Somali police forces in the right direction.
We look at discipline and we look at accountability. We want the Somali police to reach a point where they can manage the internal security of this country independently.
ATMIS, military, police and civilian components are authorized to conduct several tasks. Among them, conduct joint simultaneous targeted offensive operations across all its 6 sectors, in coordination with the Somali security forces to degrade the Al-Shabaab and affiliates linked to ISIL. Configure ATMIS in terms of composition, structure, disposition and equipment to best hand over security responsibility of Somali security forces, support Somali security forces in clearing main supply routes, including recovered from Al-Shabaab, provide combat mentorship to the Somali National Army, enhance Somali National Army capacity to conduct civil-military coordination activities, and ensure compliance with the rules and engagement of international humanitarian law, international human rights and all international best practices. The expected timeline of ATMIS assignment, which commenced on the 1st of April 2022, is 2 years and 8 months. This was arrived at following the assessment by the Security Council on its 4 phases guided transition. The phases begin with the reconfiguration stage, followed by jointly shaping and clearing operations and handing over of forward operating bases. This is then followed by phase 3, which is operations and handing over of the forward operating bases, and finally liquidation and withdrawal of ATMIS. Apart from the troops and police forces, ATMIS also boasts of 70 civilian staff, expected to increase to 85 from 1st of January 2023. The first drawdown of 2,000 security forces is expected on the 31st of December 2022. Our day begins at the mission headquarters in Mogadishu, Somalia.
When you are out there, for us, ours is to remain coordinating.
A quick brief before we head out for what ATMIS calls a visibility patrol. It's then time to board this P7 armored vehicle, ready and draped in bulletproof vests and helmets. We board. The streets of Mogadishu are relatively calm. These patrols are done on a regular basis to instill confidence in the public that the ATMIS forces are around and have their safety at heart, but at the same time send a warning signal to the Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab still remains a threat to the stability and sovereignty of Somalia, and it's the job of these men and women in uniform to keep that threat at bay. Recent trends by the terror group have been identified as follows: extensive use of improvised explosive devices, persistent use of person-stroke vehicle-borne attacks, especially in Mogadishu and major towns, target assassinations, use of propaganda on various social media outlets, and voluntary or forced recruitments. There has, however, been a growing unrest and disapproval of the militia group among members of the public, and this is a situation that, in cooperation with the federal government of Somalia and the civilian component, ATMIS is prepared to take full advantage of.
You saw, for example, last operation, there are over 300 Al-Shabaab put out of action. It means the population is not now welcome Al-Shabaab, which is a positive.
So the mentorship is part of preparing the Somalis to take over their security responsibility.
The support of the Somali Joint Forces unit has been a game changer, and the team here is positive that going forward the mission will realize much more success.
Issues to do with piracy has not been reported.
The forces have realized a number of achievements. Since formation, they have successfully secured delayed elections that had triggered political tension, combat mentoring and training of Somali security forces, and increased IED findings thanks to the United Nations Mine Action Services training and capacity building and the successful joint ops in the regions of Lower Shabelle, Ali Fudere and Hiran. The forces, however, face few challenges that, if addressed, the mandate will be a huge success.
So to be able to reach the mobile forces in different areas, you need logistics that are flexible. And that is the aspiration of the new concept. Funding has been a problem. To some extent, reimbursement is not done at the right time because there are no funds at the African Union.
As we head back to the headquarters, it's clear that the public trust from the residents of Mogadishu has been received well by the forces, and the general feeling is that the civilian component continues to volunteer vital security information. The question on whether the enemy will be defeated has shifted from if to when. Kismayu, Somalia. We learned that Sector 6 headquarters, a military base shared and manned by the Kenya and Ethiopian troops. Here we'll link up with Sector 2 Deputy Sector Commander Joel Mayo, who shares that apart from the military functions performed by the ATMIS forces here, Kenya Defence Forces has been able to do training and equip the local population here with skills that have enabled them to gain the trust of the locals.
Our activities are also geared to employing the soft power to ensure that we support that local population by giving limited civil military assistance in terms of drugs, in terms of food. Same to women who require assistance during birth. We've been able also to assist through our medic. They have done a very good job.
The public confidence in the KDF soldiers here has been a major boost to the joint operations by the forces in getting to the enemies and weakening them in their strongholds. Any commander sending his team knows the risk involved, and sometimes our men and women in uniform go out and pay the ultimate price in the line of duty, which always leaves a void. Mayo, however, says the training his officers have received ensures that they stay on the ready to tackle the enemy.
We have counselors. We have those guys who are trained to ensure that the psychological support is there, the counseling is there. So it is part of our job, you know. This job, you must be expect some risks. So we have that kind of support, and I think we have been able to manage it well.
His sentiments echoed by 2nd Mechanized Infantry Battalion Commanding Officer Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Kasaine, who says the soldiers here are committed to the transition plan and the team is always alert in the event of a security incident.
When the local population is tired of Al-Shabaab, then that is a very good pointer towards better things to come. And I believe perhaps even before 2024, we may see a very different, we may see a lot of reduction in terms of Al-Shabaab threat within Somalia.
We then embark on a patrol of the KDF soldiers. Our destination, Kismayo town. We're standing right outside this building in Pretoria Street, Kismayo in Somalia, where a fire incident occurred on the 4th of this month, and without the intervention of the KDF, this fire would have spread further to adjacent buildings and the losses would have been worse. The businessmen and women here, the Somali security forces and the residents appreciate the presence of the KDF forces.
He thanks twice and thrice again. And also you came at night and support the community of Jubaland, Kismayo especially. These people who lost their property, if could not ATMIS or UN support we got, this whole building could be burned and they could be fall down. She said it was successful for a long time after she got support from ATMIS and Jubaland community. If it is not KDF and we could not give it support, my friend, people will lose their millions of money will lost. And Somali, they don't take money to bank. There is big safe in the building.
At the Syed Muhammad Abdullah Hassan International Airport, KDF has begun construction of the incoming traffic checkpoint that it plans to move from the initial location for security purposes.
Our role here is to support the UNIMAS to disrupt the smuggling in of explosive devices on the vehicles and in the airport.
ATMIS forces are capacity building the capabilities of the local government forces in this area for the subsequent handover of the security operations of this airport at a later time. Not far from here, we get a front row seat as Somali security forces witness a safely detonation of an explosive thanks to joint training with KDF and the United Nations Mine Action Service. The trainees here are appreciative of the training and believe that one day they too will be able to conduct such operations independently.
There was a lot of threats of IEDs and we have done and demolished those IEDs. We have done joint operation with the KDF.
We have been trained with ATMIS UNIMAS team as our trainer. They have equipped us with so many skills on matters concerning explosive materials.
Injured locals also get to enjoy treatment at this hospital run by the KDF as well.
One on the far end, unfortunately, was involved in a gunshot battle, got sustained gunshot wound onto the leg, that is the right leg on the calf. So we've been able to do some surgical interventions for him, and he's still continuing on treatment.
ATMIS hopes to be done with its operations and handover of security operations by the scheduled exit time of December 2024. The management, however, admits some challenges.
And we have not, despite numerous efforts by the African Union, by the United Nations as well, we have not been able to secure additional sources of funding from other partners, despite our efforts. So I think the partners have, the EU and the UK, have sort of reached a point where donor fatigue has set in, and they have made it known that they cannot continue with, to be the sole financer for the mission.
The capacity, as we speak, it is still low in terms of weaponry that can support huge operations.
Despite the challenges, ATMIS looks forward to continue supporting the Somali transition plan to its full completion. The Africa Union Transition Mission in Somalia is confident that by the time they hand over security operations to the Somali security forces, they will be properly equipped and well trained to be able to run their security operations independently.
Patrick Gishuhi Ngove was born and brought up in Nairobi's Kangemi estate.
We had grown at the bottom of what we call poverty. I know it, I experienced it.
Gishuhi had never thought of the possibility of flying.
And at that time, even to think of even getting near an aircraft, leave alone flying, it was not easy.
Until a newspaper advert came through for him, joining the Kenya Air Force after his A-levels.
And luckily, I attended the interviews, a bit difficult, and I passed.
He was then selected to do a course on helicopter flying.
At the time, the Air Force had never operated helicopters. And even they didn't have the helicopters, they didn't have the instructor.
In France, the flying course was on a crash program.
And we used to fly even late hours at night to cover the night flying programs. And both the students and even the instructors, all of us were working tirelessly to cover the program.
Upon his return to Kenya, Major Gishuhi became part of the pioneer helicopter pilots in the Kenya Air Force and indeed in the whole country.
Also at the time in the country, if there was any helicopter operation, it was very, very scanty. There was almost nil. Helicopters were not that much known.
As fate would have it, in February of 1979, 2 Air Force aircrafts crashed on their way back from an operation in the Kilimambogo area near Thika, killing 6 Air Force personnel.
We took off that morning. We went around and we found where they had crashed at Kilimambogo. Unfortunately, not even one person survived in that air crash. We lost everybody.
This accident would propel Major Gishuhi to taking charge as squadron commander.
And it was a very tough job. It exposed me to the early management of a squadron.
He had to manage the squadron and the trauma the team was coping with.
A lot of assistance to get through. I had the Air Force headquarters which was keeping vigil at the new squadron so that we don't get more incidences.
After the Kilimambogo crash, the Kenya Air Force had to quickly train more helicopter pilots.
We had a lot of work to do in the country, apart from training. The helicopters we were failing where there is relief required. We also used to do military missions, and also later on, the squadron was very much involved with the VIP flights.
Years later, on the 21st of August 1982, the name Kenya Air Force changed to 82 Air Force.
And we were given the new uniform We were given new numbers, and we were turned now into Air Force. Even a mention of Kenya Air Force, you could be sent home or to jail.
Major Patrick Gishuhi Ngobe was the brains behind these new emblems of the new Kenya Air Force.
And I did that work under very strict supervision. At the same time, I was given the task of designing the flag for the new Air Force.
A task into which he put tremendous efforts for it to be adopted.
Fortunately, I completed the establishment work and handed it over to the Air Force headquarters, to General Mohammed. He was the Air Force commander then.
The new 82 Air Force, however, reverted to Kenya Air Force on the 14th of July, 1993 through a court ruling.
The court gave the ruling that Kenya Air Force has never been disbanded. That's when the uniform was for 82 Air Force was gotten rid of, and the Kenya Air Force came back to their own uniform.
Gishuhi's slogan, "Peak of Imara Angani" for the Kenya Air Force stands to date, as is the flag. According to Major Gishuhi, once a military man, always a military man.
That one I can assure you. Even after many years of retirement, I'm still a military man at heart. I'm wearing a civilian face, but inside me, there is a military man in me.
Major Patrick Gishuhi Ngobe is the oldest living squadron commander of the Air Force. But what most people don't know is that when the Air Force was reformed in 1982, the flag and the motto, "Tuko Imara Angani," was his idea. Reporting for KBC from Kino in Kiambu County, I'm Nisi Emmanuel.
A pleasant November afternoon, the year 2021. What an opportunity to meet and have a conversation with retired Lieutenant General Daniel Ishmael Opande at his Nairobi residence. Lieutenant General Daniel Opande is not only a Kenyan hero, but an honored military officer in Africa who has served in the Kenyan military for over 42 years. His unparalleled bravery, courage and resilience towards the restoration of peace around Africa is on record. We get down to the business of the day with a glimpse of his early life.
Normal childhood in the rural area of Kenya, in South Nyanza. I looked after the cows sometimes, and after that I went to school. I have 4 children, 2 daughters and 3 sons, and several grandchildren now.
Whether by a twist of fate or destiny, Opande joins the military.
My close members of the family, especially Dad, did not want any of his children to be in the military. So I didn't have really any inkling that I would be in the military, but I eventually ended up there.
He was appointed as the commander of the UN Security Force and head of security forces by the UN Security Council in Sierra Leone in 2000 and 2003.
Sierra Leone was the largest then peacekeeping mission that the United Nations had established, and I landed there as the force commander.
He was head of the security forces not just in Sierra Leone, but also in Liberia between 2003 to 2005, leading disarmament exercises.
And when peace returned there, then Kofi Annan asked me to move over to Liberia as in the same capacity.
Between 1990 and 1993, he was in Liberia as a UN Chief Military Observer. Here, he encountered the largest rebel group under Charles Taylor. A few years later, he returned only to be appointed as the commander of the UN missions in Sierra Leone, commanding the largest peacekeeping military force under the UN to be deployed. Despite the myriad of challenges out in the battlefield, General Opande did everything to ensure the comfort of his troops and the Liberian people who were under his command.
hiding weapons. No more weapons. Are you sure? Yes.
He believed that all people are human, regardless of their positions. From 2003 to 2005, Lieutenant General Daniel Opande was the force commander of the peacekeepers of the UN mission in Liberia. Tough but diplomatic, the Kenyan Defense Forces officer in 2004 got the commanders of Liberia's warring factions to agree to the disarmament of more than 100,000 former combatants. The United Nations military also provided security, technical and logistical support for the electoral process that culminated in peaceful democratic elections in 2005. It was this protective fatherly approach to the war-torn zones that saw him earn the title the African Father and saw many Liberian children named after him.
People would tell me, or they themselves, they would tell me, Pape, they call me Pape. Pape is a father, a recognized father.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
After 14 years, through the disarmament process, Opande brought peace back to a country that was once virtually ruled by AK-47s. The Liberian child soldiers were able to go back to school and to embrace normal life. Closer home, his notable highlights include his role in Kenya's shifter campaign of the 1960s.
After graduating, from the cadets, training school in the UK, I came back. Straight away, we were sent to the northeastern province because there was, this shifter war. So that is where I first experienced, being in the military, the real military.
Beyond active military service, General Opande has occasionally mediated conflicts, among them post-2007, 2013 and 2017 election crisis in Kenya and the aftermath of the 2015 upheavals in South Sudan.
All those elections that have taken place since 2007, we have done our bit. Sometimes we are not, very visible.
He has also documented his vast experiences in his autobiography, In Pursuit of Peace in Africa.
I believe that those experiences, if I don't put them, down, they will just dissipate with me. True. I also do, a lecture, around either within the country here and outside the country. I still do a little bit of sharing my experiences on peacekeeping with various organizations like IGAD and the others. I lecture in the International Peace Support Center. So I'm still sharing my knowledge with people.
Yeah.
So, good health.
Yes, good health. And peace.
And peace.
Yes.
And peace.
And peace.
General Opande is a celebrated military icon who has worn many hats over the years. Even in retirement, he continues to champion for global peace, mediating conflict within and without. Reporting for KBC from Kileleshwa in Nairobi County, I'm Nisi Imano.